What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Grow Room, a show focused on growth and bringing value to yourselves and others. Remember, life does not come with instructions, which is why I created this platform as a guide for achieving your best life. So remember to like, share, and subscribe, as the education this show provides will be important to you. Over the year, I'll be speaking to mortgage advisors, property developers, nutritionists, health and fitness experts, marketing experts, answering questions that usually come with a price attached to it. Remember, guys, the content on this show is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not financial advice, nor is it a recommendation, and does not address individual needs. The Grow Room UK is not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Always do your own research and seek independent advice when necessary. Any arrangements made with third parties mentioned are at your own risk. The Grow Room UK and its creators are not liable for your actions. Investing carries risks. The value of your investments can go up as well as down, and you may not get back the amount you originally invested. Now, today I'm joined by Tim. He has over 10 years experience as a financial planner. Welcome, Tim. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Glad to be on.
So first, we're going to start with some quick fire questions.
Okay,
just to break the ice a little bit. So it's either or questions, all right?
sure.
Okay, so budgeting or investing?
You can't do one without the other, really. You have to budget to invest. Figuring out your budget first is the first step before investing. In financial planning, there's a set of core principles, and the very first thing is clearing debt, and then it's thinking about saving, and then it's thinking about investing, and then it's thinking about your future. So budgeting plays into all of that. So figure out first of all what your budget is, and that should then lead you into the world of investment once you've carved out what you can afford.
Okay, that sounds good, but it's not exactly a quick fire answer.
But yeah, no, that's a difficult one.
I know, as someone of your expertise, it's a bit of a tough question to answer. You can't say one or the other. It's
budgeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So for
the short answer.
Yeah, please. On the next few questions,
okay,
we'll have a deep dive into all this in a moment. So stocks or real estate?
Another tricky one. Pros and cons to both. I think the way that government now is, I think an investment portfolio tends to be a better option for most people.
So stocks, yeah? Okay.
I would say so, but then that's not true for everyone.
Credit cards or debit cards?
Debit cards, that's your money. That's not somebody else's. Credit cards also have their place. They build credit.
So paying off debt or saving for retirement?
Normally you do both. These are very difficult to answer quick fire. You normally will do both. You'll normally have debt, and you'll also be saving for retirement. But if it's a bad debt, then clearing debt's better than saving.
So if you had to choose one
of the two,
yes,
clear debt first.
Clear debt. Okay. You still said first.
Yeah.
Cool. Cash or credit?
Cash.
Okay. Similar to credit or debit cards. It would have been weird if you said credit there.
Yep, it would have, yeah.
Vacation or staycation?
Staycation. Yeah, we have a dog, and I like bringing him with us on holiday. Small
paid off house or large house with a mortgage?
That's so subjective. For me, it would be I do like a nice house, and for me it would be a large house and a mortgage.
Okay. A new car every 5 years or a used car until it dies?
I'm guilty of a new car every 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So you're sticking with that, yeah?
Yeah, I'll stick with that, yeah. Okay. It would be hypocritical of me to say otherwise.
A home-cooked meal or eating out?
Eating out.
A high-paying job you hate or a low-paying job you love?
Low-paying job you love.
Active trading or passive index fund?
I can't give a quick one to that, because that's a very contentious area in our industry. They both play a part. It depends on what you're investing in. Sometimes active management has value, sometimes it doesn't so much. So yeah, I'll need more context on that one. I'm sure we'll dive into that later.
So no comment, yeah?
Yeah.
The S&P 500 or the total stock market?
Total stock market for diversification, although S&P 500 historically does tend to have better long-term returns, but it can be very volatile. So you need to have the right risk appetite for that.
Okay. So I'm sure you'd be like both, right?
Yeah. The thing is, the US market at the moment makes up 65% of the global economy. So if you answer the latter, it's still mostly the S&P 500 you're investing in.
Okay. So a robo-advisor or human financial planner?
That would be weird for me to say robo. No, I do think human. And I think it's one of those roles that hopefully won't be taken over by AI, because it is about relationships, it's about trust, and it's a very personal thing, money. So hopefully it's a career that will only become more and more important.
For sure. Crypto or gold?
Gold, because it's regulated.
Okay.
Crypto isn't. So
Makes sense.
yeah, that's an easy answer for me to give as a regulated advisor. Again, no, do your own research.
Lump sum or dollar cost averaging?
Normally, pound cost averaging is better to manage sequencing risk. It spreads out your risk of potentially going in at the wrong time, or at least takes that risk away. So yeah, pound cost averaging.
Pound cost averaging?
Pound cost averaging.
Pound cost. Oh yeah, because we're English.
Because we're English. Yeah.
I've never seen that term online. Everywhere I see is dollar.
It's dollar cost. Yeah, no, we said pound cost.
Cool. And shared bank account or separate bank accounts?
It's personal preference. You could do both. I think both is good. I think having your own personal financial independence is important. So if you do have a joint one, I'd say have one for yourself as well.
Okay. Prenup or no prenup?
Again, personal preference. If that creates a trust barrier in that relationship, then it's something you need to figure out. But if you're both on the same page, there's no reason why a prenup doesn't work.
Talk about money on the first date or wait until later?
I would say it would be hypocritical of me to say wait until later, because one of the big things I want to try and do in my time in the industry is to try and remove the taboo of talking about money. It's something I grew up with, and I'd like to see money become far less of a dirty word. And there's no reason why you shouldn't talk about money to people that you know. So I guess maybe that's the difference there. Wait until you get to know them. If you think that this person is going to be in your life, then yeah, open up as soon as you can.
That's actually sound dating advice there as well. Right. So before we deep dive into the world of finance, what are the first 3 things you do with your money when you get paid?
The first 3 things I do with my money when I get paid. This might sound quite boring, but it probably isn't anything I do with my money when I get paid, because I've set everything to automate. So that would be my advice, is automate as much as you can, so that when you get paid, you don't need to think about what you need to do. So whether that be paying into your pension, paying into your ISA, all these things I have on direct debits. I suppose I use a credit card for my spending, and I do that for the points that the credit card gives me, which I can then use in the future for hotels or flights or whatever that might be. It also helps build a good credit score. So I pay that off every month. So that's the first thing I would do.
Okay.
That's probably the only thing that I manually do. Everything else is automated.
So which credit card do you use?
I personally use an American Express. There's lots of good ones out there though. So yeah, Avios points and things like that I can turn into flights. I'm lucky my partner works for British Airways, so between us we have a number of travel benefits that way. So yeah, we get to travel relatively cost effectively.
I do hear that switching credit cards does help with points building as well as, as a new credit card customer, you do get some of the new offers that are given out. Is that something you do, or do you just stick to the same American Express?
I have done it before, if it's worth doing. It's the same thing with bank accounts as well. New customers are often getting slightly better benefits than existing customers, so it does help to shop around. And yeah, you're right, moving around makes a big difference. Often you get a load of additional points when you first set up a credit card, for example. That can be really useful. But with credit cards, just be careful you're not opening too many of them, because it's quite easy to do that every year, every 18 months, and then before you know it, you've got 5 or 6 credit cards hanging around. And unused credit cards can be quite unhelpful. So just make sure if you are switching them around, make sure you're closing the ones that you've switched.
Okay. When you say unhelpful, as in, do they ruin your credit score at all, or is it just...
It can have a detrimental impact if you have a dormant credit card.
Okay.
So, if you have one that has a zero balance, fine, but maybe every now and again just fill up the car with it, pay it off at the end of the month, at least, make 1 or 2 purchases during the month to make sure that it's still active.
Yeah.
Because dormant accounts can potentially have a detrimental impact.
Okay. And what are the reasons for that? So do you know? Just
because the point of a credit card having a good impact on your credit score is the demonstration of managing debt and managing credit and using it and paying it off. If you're not doing that, then it potentially demonstrates the opposite, that you just have credit that you're not actually using or managing. So close accounts you're not using.
Okay. If you could describe your personal relationship with money in one word, what would it be?
Evolving.
It's a good answer. I like that one. That's how I think of my relationship with money as well.
I think that would probably be true for almost everybody.
Yeah.
Well, certainly it should be. Well, no one's got a perfect relationship, and no one's got a relationship that you can't improve.
Some people out there do ignore their relationship with money because it could be a tough subject, and sometimes we just never have enough.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I've met so many people who just say, "Oh, I'm really bad with money."
Yeah.
I've got my partner deals with it, or whatever it might be. I've had that with clients before, where typically it can, particularly with older clients, it's often the woman, because traditionally the man takes care of the finances. But lots of younger people as well with bad relationships with money, and that's not a personality trait. That's something that's learned through the relationship that you have with it growing up. That might be from your parents, it might be from the community you grew up in, or an experience. But all those things can be unlearned, and I would say I'd never had a great experience with money when I was a kid. I didn't have an awful lot of it, and I had to unlearn a lot of those behaviours around money being sort of related to greed and some negative connotations, whereas actually a healthy, positive view of what money can do for you could make such a big difference for anybody when they're younger, going into it, starting to earn money, how to manage it, how it can work for them. The more we can educate on that, I think the better off everyone would be.
Facts. I remember when I was younger, after getting paid, I'd go out on the weekend and be scared to actually check my bank balance the next day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was the same. I think if you grow up with no money, and I was never given money as a kid, it was embarrassing at times when I'd be asking for some money, because we go to, as a kid, you go to town with your friends, whatever it might be, and maybe getting new clothes. And I remember my dad gave me £1, and it didn't get me a meal at Burger King. I had to get a 99p burger, and that was me spent for the day. So then when you do start getting money, I want to spend it all, and then you get into this unhealthy relationship with money that it's there to be spent, not thinking about the aspects of money that you should be thinking about, which is long-term saving. I know these things can be quite boring, but I think there's a way to bring them to life, and that's just showing people the impact of compound interest, what it can do for you, what sort of things money can do for you in the future, and then make that real. So talk to people about what sort of things do you want to do with your life that maybe you can't afford right now? Okay, how do we make that a reality? Put a plan in place, and they can feel what it means to them. Because to them, it's like, oh well, I'm going to get that house in Italy or whatever it is that they'd love to do in the future, and money can do that for them.
Ain't that the truth? And that's why we need financial literacy taught in schools, because that would definitely help the youth of today.
It would. I'm part of the. I'm one of the education champions with the Skyy, which is the Chartered Insurance Institute, and that is, we go into schools and we do workshops and we do teaching on personal money, and that is a huge thing for me. It's a big passion project to try, and because financial advice, what I do day to day for clients is, that's just not everybody can afford that. So there's this huge advice gap, and there is no education, like you say, in schools when it comes to money. I have found through this program that whenever I'm talking to schools about coming to do something there or do a talk or do a workshop, I'm finding that the schools that I want to go into more, the ones that maybe the kids need the help more, don't have the resource or they don't have the staff to actually engage with me in the first place. Whereas the private schools, you've got all the resource in the world, and kids that come from very comfortable backgrounds, they can't work with me quick enough because they have these programs, they have these futures weeks, they have these personal education programs that each of the kids have, and great, happy to do all of that. But there is still a problem that outreach into the schools that have children that perhaps need it more is still a struggle, and they're getting next to no financial education whatsoever. So they leave school at 16 or 18 or whatever it might be. They go into the world of work, and no one's told them how to manage your money. No one's told them about tax. No one's told them about all the different things they should be thinking about, pensions and budgeting. And it can all be taught. It just isn't.
Yeah. See, I didn't even know that exists. What was that program called, sorry?
So the CII is the Chartered Insurance Institute. That's the governing body for our industry.
Child Insurance Institute.
The Chartered Insurance Institute.
Okay,
yeah.
Chartered Insurance Institute.
Yes. So they have an education champion program. So there's a few chartered financial planners out there that do the same thing. And we outreach into schools, give up our time pro bono to go and deliver some workshops, try and make them regular if we can. But yeah, it's I think it's a really important thing to do.
Yeah, thank you for doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But I did hear you touching earlier on that it's normally within schools of more privilege that get this sort of opportunity, and schools that need it more, say the more public schools, they don't exactly have this sort of program in their schools, or? Yeah,
and you don't necessarily need the program. And I mean, if there is anybody involved in schools existing that wants to reach out, you don't need a program. You just need to carve out an hour of time during a week for the students, whether it be class by class or in a larger environment, for me to come along and just do a quick workshop on the key things that they should be thinking about. Try and bring it to life a little bit. I know pensions and money might be a bit of a boring subject for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
So
it still could help some.
It could help some, and if one person in the room it makes a difference to, then it's worth doing.
Exactly.
And I like to think I'm still just about young enough to relate to them. I can understand, the sort of idea of people coming in to talk about money. You might think some stuffy guy in his 50s or 60s in a suit coming along and talking about pensions.
Yeah.
Hopefully I bring a little bit more life to it than that. So if it makes any difference at all, then it's worth doing.
So is that something they have to reach out to the CII, or can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me. Okay. Yeah, they can reach out to me directly, and we can arrange it between ourselves. I'm doing my own outreach to schools as well. But yeah, it obviously makes my life so much easier if schools can come directly to me. That would be great. Yeah,
what about other community centres and things like that?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be schools. Yeah, it can be youth clubs. It could be community centres, and it isn't necessarily. It's not just school kids that need the education. I would say that people leaving school for the first 15 years of their working life, possibly longer. I mean, I've met people going into retirement and have still never really looked money in the face or really done much about educating themselves. And it's a topic that, people can go through their whole lives really just avoiding. And if they just decided to pay attention to it and get themselves a little bit educated and take some guidance, then it can make all the difference between the life they want or the retirement they want to the one that they get in.
Mate, I'm 35 and I want to join these classes as well.
Well, come along, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, right now you got me wishing I was like a head teacher or something to get you into, the school I managed or something. Because I know there's a lot of local schools in the local area that could benefit from any conversation about money.
Oh, 100%. And look, most of my inroads into these schools are just through talking to parents or talking to people I know who have kids going, you know what, my kids could really do with that. I'll put you in touch with, so I know the deputy head there. That tends to be my inroad into the schools.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily need to be I need to speak to the exact correct person. It could just be, just get me talking to somebody, and eventually I'll find my way to where I need to talk to, and whoever that is, we can sort it out from there.
Sounds great. What is a common misconception about being a financial planner?
A common misconception about being a financial planner. I think the industry's changed a lot in the last 15 years, 20 years, let's say, pre-financial crash, because there's no doubt the financial system around the world was responsible for a global recession, mortgage crisis that caused a lot of damage and created a deep mistrust in the financial services industry. Post that, a lot of work's been done. In 2010, there was a retail distribution review in the UK, which revamped the levels of qualifications, it revamped the standards, it provided new principles and guidelines on how financial advisors should be working. Because before that, the old IFA culture, the independent financial advisor, was, part of it was unregulated. You hear the term cowboy thrown around quite a lot, and there's an awful lot of horror stories. Now, there's been a huge cleanup job, and I think certainly since I've been working in the industry, I've only really ever come across great people who just want to do the best thing for their clients. And I'm proud to be part of that industry. We do feel now like we are a profession alongside solicitors and accountants, and we hold ourselves to those standards. So I think the industry's come along a long way, and it's far more professional than perhaps maybe the perception might be because of what happened in the past.
Do you think the financial industry is more geared to avoid a recession? I did hear a couple of years ago that they thought we was going into recession, but it wasn't something that was announced. I think it was some people felt like we was in a recession, but I don't think we actually was in a recession.
Well, a recession is a technical thing. It's basically consecutive quarters of negative growth, and that's what a recession is. So technically, we were in a recession.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, a long recession is something that's what hits the economy much harder. An economy can dip below that threshold and technically go into recession. But if the levers are being pulled correctly, and if the Bank of England are making the right decisions, and our monetary policy and our fiscal policy are aligned to try and protect us as a population from the effects of a proper long-term recession, then the consequences can be largely avoided. Now, longer recessions like 2008, 2009. COVID was sort of a recession, but it was a really, manipulated recession that was really kind of controlled and then boosted back with all the borrowing that governments around the world took. So, they're business cycles, and we will have a recession again in the future. There's a lot of capital that goes into our economy, and that goes through private investment, it goes through institutional investment, it goes from government spending, and eventually more and more of that capital becomes really inefficient, poor spending, bad decisions, and eventually, this drives prices higher, and inflation kicks in, and we can't keep pace with that as a population because our wages don't increase in line with that. So that creates recessionary conditions. That's where businesses fail. That's where people lose their jobs. And then at that point, there's a reset. And then you come out of the recession, hopefully quickly. Sometimes it's not quick. You know, we've had some really long recessions over the course of history. So the quicker the come out of the recession, the better. Less businesses will fail. And there's a bit of a redistribution of capital, and hopefully it goes back into more efficient businesses and programs, and that's where opportunities arise, because from that becomes new businesses, new sectors, new industries, and that's where the markets recover, because investment goes back out into the markets, and if you own any investments in a portfolio, then you'll see these cycles over 5-year periods, 10-year periods. It's something to try to get used to, as uncomfortable as it is. As an investor, that's something that you have to accept, and try not to panic when those times come.
Yes,
yeah.
Drawbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which, if you do have an investment portfolio, you probably see every few years, really, a big sell-off, which...
Yeah,
it's scary.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, we saw one only a few months ago.
Yes.
With
felt it.
Yeah, with Mr. Trump's Liberation Day.
Yes.
That caused a big sell-off in the markets. People got a bit nervous, uncertainty around how countries were going to trade with the US, who are such a huge consumer around the world. You know, they're almost everybody's number one customer. So yeah, that put the jitters into the markets, and the first place you tend to sell from, if there's times of uncertainty, is stock market. And normally it's the shares that have done the best, because they're showing the most gains. So that would have been tech stocks in the US in this instance. So everybody would have felt that, because most people's portfolios would have been positioned towards those sorts of holdings that were showing such great growth up until that point. So it happens every now and again. It would have been a similar thing when Russia invaded Ukraine, going back a little bit more during COVID. In fact, I remember having a client during that time, and their portfolio was down, literally hundreds of thousands of pounds in the months after COVID. And he was calling me every day, and he was like, we need to sell into cash. I can't believe you're not recommending we sell the cash, because I'm losing more and more every day. We don't know how this is going to end up. And thankfully, I managed to get him to hold his nerve, because the only way that he could have crystallized that loss is by doing exactly what he asked me to do. Yeah. But in staying exactly as he was with his investment portfolio, he wasn't holding any less units of the holdings inside his portfolio. They were just worth less, because the world deemed they were at that particular period in time because of what was going on.
What did you say? It's around COVID, did you say?
This was just after COVID, yeah.
Yeah. So
and thankfully,
very much.
It would have been around about April, May. Yeah,
so everything tanked a bit, yeah?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the stock market was down around 40%. So anybody that's balanced or higher risk investor would have really felt that. They'd have seen at least 50% of that drop in their portfolio. So, a lot of money was temporarily down at that point in time. But, he stuck to it. And by the end of the year, his portfolio had gone back up to where it was, and it had actually done some good growth over the year. So it's a good example. Don't panic when these things happen, because the markets do recover.
100%.
Yeah.
Panic selling is the only way to solidify that loss, right?
100%. Yeah. It's a great way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, it feels so tense at that time. And emotions only exist in the present. It's all you feel. Yeah. Hindsight's great to look back at, and it's easy to talk about the future, but you feel what's the present, and that's the hard thing to control, is your emotions. And that's why advisors become really important, because they help keep you making the right decisions during those emotional times, because we can help take the emotion out of it. Yeah.
So when I used to pay more attention to my portfolios, because I'm in like crypto, stocks, and crypto really goes down dramatically. Yeah. I used to have someone who wasn't a financial advisor, but they would advise me on a few things, because they was more educated on the subject. And every time it would go down, they would just be like, zoom out. Yeah. Don't pay attention to it. Yeah. You don't plan to sell now. You didn't plan to sell now anyway. Yeah. Just hold your holdings. Look back at it in a few months' time, 6 months' time, a year's time, and you'll see the growth.
The principle is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You zoom out. Zoom out's a great way of putting it. You know, a show and tell is always helpful. You know, show a similar moment in time in recent history, and you'll find one where markets have reacted similarly to what's happening in that moment. And then you zoom out and you go, right, what happened after that?
Yeah.
Where are we now?
History repeats itself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the situation might seem unprecedented and unique. COVID, for example.
Yeah.
You know, global lockdown. No one who was alive had ever experienced anything like that before. But the reaction of the markets is the same. You know, they react.
Yeah.
And in the short term, they react sometimes quite violently. But long term, those underlying economic trends take over, and that removes the noise and the volatility of that short term sentiment. And that's always what I try and ask my clients to remain focused on. And thankfully they listen.
The growth after COVID was actually...
It was exceptional.
Yeah.
It was exceptional. Yeah, I mean, the world was, you know, technology boomed, pharmaceuticals boomed. The world was full of opportunities. It created a slightly strange dynamic between some of the different asset classes. Mm-hmm. You know, traditionally you have this equities and bonds portfolio, and depending on how risky you were would determine how much you had exposed to the stock market and how much you had exposed to the bond market. Think of it as like a gin and tonic, and the gin is your stocks and shares, and the tonic is your bonds. And you know, you might have a really good night on a heavy gin, low tonic cocktail, but you're going to have a hell of a hangover in the morning, you know, and you've got to be prepared for that ride. Yeah. But after COVID, the bond market in particular was not acting in its typical non-correlated way to the equities. In fact, it was moving very similarly to the equity market. So it wasn't providing that diversification that maybe someone who was lower risk would be looking for. So multi-asset portfolios and investment managers were having to go out into different alternative types of asset classes, whether that be hedge funds or structured products or commercial property or commodities or these sorts of things to hedge against the volatility and movements of the stock market. So, yeah, it was a bit of a strange time after COVID, but, you know, there was plenty of, like you said, lots of opportunities for growth, and that went right the way through to the end of 2021, really. Yeah. And then we had a
big tank.
Yeah, difficult 18 months to 2 years after that. High inflation, supply chain issues, Russia, Ukraine.
Look at it as well. You've seen like a steady level of growth since, and even in the last year, January, things were growing really well, actually.
Yep.
Then, as you said a few months ago, we had a bit of a pullback. And again now, I'm looking at my accounts and they're actually back to where they was in January times. Some doing better than others.
Yeah.
Bitcoin as well being almost $120,000 today, which is crazy.
Great. Yeah.
Crazy,
yeah. I mean, cryptocurrency is an interesting one, and obviously a lot of people want to know about cryptocurrency because it's it's getting a lot of publicity. It's still unregulated in this country, so as much as I try to keep myself in the loop on it, it's still not something that we can include in client portfolios.
About the ETFs?
Yeah, again, you know, the underlying asset is cryptocurrency, so we can't do that. There are major
hedge funds that do.
Investment banks and hedge funds that are, you know, investing heavily in research teams to build and run these ETFs, or certainly get to grips with the cryptocurrency market in anticipation for regulation or potentially adoption from central governments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's something that is, I don't think it's going away, and I think it will form part of, the financial landscape for a long time. You know, it feels like it's something that could slot in quite easily to some of the new technologies.
It's good to know, though.
So yeah, I think certainly not something that I would recommend investing in until there's some regulation. But
are you involved in it yourself?
No, I had a little personal journey with it, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else do this, but I had a little bit of money from a bonus a number of years ago that I thought, well, I can afford to lose this, so I put a little bit of money into Ethereum.
Okay.
And in my head I had a sell point. which was, I thought, if I could double my money, I can buy myself a new set of golf clubs and that'll be me and crypto done. And that's exactly what happened. And it only took about maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I had my new irons and still use them now. So yeah, that was my story with crypto. But I haven't done anything with it since now.
Okay, many years ago, like before Bitcoin is even as popular as it is now, people would be like, "Oh, I've got Bitcoin. You should buy it. You should buy it."
I remember.
Like,
yeah.
How do you do it? They're like, "Oh, you have to get a wallet on your computer." I'm like, "A wallet on your computer?"
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. It's such an oxymoron. It's like, well, yeah.
Just wish someone like said, "Hey, do you know what? Let's go to your computer now.
Exactly.
Let's show you how to do it."
Oh, I know.
And then
Yeah.
if someone did that, I would be a millionaire right now. Do you know what I mean?
Billionaire, yeah. There's some great stuff. Well, not great, horrible for the people, but there's some funny stories of people who've had legacy Bitcoin and then lost their wallet or lost the briefcase where they had their wallet. I don't even know how that even works, but yeah, I did hear a story of somebody that was hired a team to go trudging through landfill to try and find this briefcase.
It's worth it, some people.
Yeah, I don't know if you found it, but yeah, it was worth a good many £1 million, and it'd be worth a lot more today.
Yeah,
because this was when Bitcoin was, I don't know, £20,000.
Yeah.
What is it now? Did you say?
It was $120,000. I usually trade in dollars when it comes to crypto.
Okay.
Something I've gotten used to because a lot of their platforms was in dollars.
Yeah.
And now there's more UK platforms like Coinbase and Crypto.com, I believe, maybe UK platform. Well, they advertise heavily over here anyway. My brother, he actually bought quite a few Ethereum when there was about, I think, 80 quid max.
Okay.
I'm sure they're in the $3,000 plus region today. So
It's not a bad return.
yeah, it's not a bad return at all, you know. And he was just seeing the market, seeing what it would do, buying it at £80, you know, a little investment. But he looks back now, wishing he put in some more.
Yeah, it touched on it there around the sort of the heavy marketing, and that does worry me slightly. And it creates many problems, particularly with the sort of alternative coin space, because there is no regulation on how these can be marketed, and the risks are not highlighted.
Yeah.
And these alternative coins, you know, you see it all the time. They might be being promoted by some celebrity who's involved from the beginning of creating these coins, and they hold the vast majority of them. They pump up the price and then dump it, and then all these people that have put their money into it are just left with something that's completely worthless, that has no tangible value whatsoever.
No intrinsic value.
No, and people keep falling for it, and that's because there's, you know, a lot of money being invested into how these things are marketed through social media. It's very clever, but it's a scam a lot of the time. So that gives cryptocurrency, I think, will go to another level once there's regulation, because that sort of thing will be policed far better.
Yes.
And then the negative connotations around cryptocurrency hopefully can be debunked a little bit.
When you say alternative coins, you mean things like the meme coins, things like Elon Musk was promoting Dogecoin.
Yeah, all those sorts of things.
Trump came into presidency again. He had Trump coin, which went crazy.
Yeah. I heard stories around, you know, people like who is that girl who went viral for a little while? The Pookie girl.
I'm not too sure.
She's got a podcast now, and people like Logan Paul, they've all got involved in this sort of stuff, and they've all got in trouble for doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, there's an end customer at the end of that who's lost a lot of money.
Definitely.
So
they always have a lot of holdings. So as soon as they put that sort of news out and they shield that coin, literally within the next few days, usually that price just keeps going up and up and up. They sell, then it all starts to just. They've
figured out a way just to literally get people to give them money.
Yeah, and it's normally the uneducated who come in and they buy the top price. Right? Yeah, and it's so crazy. Like one day the coin could be worth 0.5 cent, then a few days later the coin is worth 10 cents.
Yeah,
and people have come in even though they may know it was worth 0.5 cent a few days ago.
Yeah,
or they just don't care. They're just FOMO, fear of missing out, trying to get some money. And
that's what a lot of the marketing is around. Yeah. You know, do it now. You know, this is the price of this at this time. This is what it could be worth in this short space of time. But you touched on it there. You mentioned it's the uneducated goes back to what we were saying.
Yeah.
That is the vast majority of people when it comes to finance.
100%.
So, that's a big market.
Okay, before we move on from crypto, when do you think it will be regulated?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't see a way that the central governments would allow it to be just regulated in its current format. I think there need to be some form of control, some easier way for governments to tax cryptocurrency, because that's a big thing. People are buying and selling cryptocurrency, and it's very difficult for governments to actually understand what people have created.
Taxing people who are earning from cryptocurrency.
They are, for those that self-declare it and for those that they know about, but I think there's probably more gains out there, certainly more cases where they should have been declared gains that are not being declared, because it's very hard to track down. These things are happening in blockchains, in untrackable transactions, and
is it because of the different ways people are able to sell it? Because you don't exactly have to sell it on the platform you bought it on. You can trade it elsewhere and spend it differently.
Yeah, exactly. And if you buy and trade and you keep buying and trading on the same platform and you create lots of different transactions, you need to be a forensically qualified accountant to figure out what the gain might be. And you've got to know who that individual was in the first place to actually look into it. So if anybody is not declaring their gains or not doing any sort of self-assessment, then for HMRC to try and track that down is really difficult. So that's a big challenge for central governments, because people have made a huge amount of money off cryptocurrency, and that's something that I know are very concerned at. There's a lot of money that's going out of the sort of normal economy. I don't know how much money is in the cryptocurrency space these days, but
around 4 trillion.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I think last time I heard the number was about 3 trillion. So yeah,
in the middle somewhere.
That's a huge amount of money that is out of the eye line of central governments, who, that's tax that goes into building our roads, building our hospitals, building our schools, and it's right that if there's extortionate gains being made, that some of that should be going back into the system.
I believe just over half of that is in Bitcoin as well, out of that 3.5 trillion, I guess.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me either.
And the problem that I find is that I haven't exactly recorded the different prices I've purchased, or price points I've purchased a crypto at. So say like one of the cryptos I invest in is XRP, and I've bought it when it was as low as 40 cents per coin. I've also bought it when it was as expensive as $1 per coin. And I haven't exactly tracked that. And the platforms back then when I was buying it, I don't think they tracked it very well either. So, because some of the data they have, you could see what you purchased it at then, but that data, for me, I can't find it on the platform anymore. So I don't know how much tax I will have to end up paying if they're trying to tax me. How they are going to make the calculation on how much I've actually earned, because I couldn't even tell them exactly how much I've earned, because I was pound cost averaging at the time. Yeah. So, I was just putting money into it. I wasn't exactly keeping track of how much I did put into it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem that might arise for me in the future.
Well, it highlights my point that, these platforms are not... they're not regulated to provide those sorts of figures.
Yeah.
If you were to have a normal investment portfolio on any given platform, then they have to provide you with a tax certificate at the end of the year, which outlines all of your gains, all of your interest, all of your dividends in a nice, normally structured way that mirrors your tax returns. It's very easy to declare your taxes owed. That's the sort of thing that crypto needs to be working on. I've no doubt that governments are busy working on this sort of stuff in the background. I know in particular that the Trump administration have been looking into all of this as well. So yeah, just watch this space, I guess.
Yes, and I do say all that to say I'm still not scared. I do love what crypto does. I love the volatility.
Yeah.
XRP at the minute is like $3.30 per coin.
Yeah.
So no matter how much I bought it for, I'm at least triple. I've at least tripled my money in XRP, and I do diversify anyway. So stocks, gold, all sorts.
Yeah.
So moving on, what is the most surprising or unexpected purchase a client has ever asked you to budget for?
A client did ask me once if they could afford a freezer. Now, bearing in mind, this client has got millions of liquid assets in their estate, and they're just very scared of spending money. And I remember they asked me one meeting, they were like, I can't remember how that came up, but I think they were eating something and it didn't look very appetizing. And I remember asking them something about it. I can't remember what I said, but they normally eat these cook meals. You seen those, the cooked frozen ready meals?
Yeah.
And she said, I can't buy the cooked meals now because our freezer's broken and I don't know if we can afford to buy another one. I was like, what? So we were like, I said, right, let's get the laptop out. Let's get you a freezer straight away because that's ridiculous.
So it wasn't any particularly special freezer. It's just a freezer.
Just any freezer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say like, a £2,000 freezer,
Any freezer.
They make things for everyone's budget these days because people can't stop spending money. These new fridges with the window you can press and you can see inside your fridge without opening it.
Oh, that's good. No, I haven't seen that. That sounds cool.
They're almost like 2,000 quid. So like the American fridge freezers with the two doors.
Yeah.
And you can literally, it has a window in the front, which
like glasses,
it's
glasses over.
It's tinted, so you can't see in it. But as soon as you press it, you get to see through the window.
That's cool.
And it's cool, but it's just always something new. Isn't
massively unnecessary, but very cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it saves you from opening your fridge and losing all the coldness.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You still got to open it to get the food out.
Exactly, Who doesn't know what's in their fridge?
Yeah. Although, I think we all do it. I mean, at 10 o'clock at night, you open the fridge, have a little snoop around, what's in there?
We're just hungry.
Yeah.
You know what's in there.
Yeah, just grazing.
Yeah, exactly.
There was another funny one where a client, I think it was about £5,000-6,000 to buy she bought one of those old London telephone boxes that she just has in her driveway now. Just this massive, huge London, big red telephone box.
Around now, they use them as little libraries now in a lot of places.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They've turned, a lot of them have turned into cool little features.
Yeah.
Some of them, I think one of them is an entrance to a club.
I did see that.
I don't know where that is, but that was really cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I kind of want one outside.
That's a great idea. That's a good idea. Yeah.
They're quite cool, a little novelty piece.
Yeah.
So if you could give your younger self one piece of financial advice, what would it be? Oh,
if I could give myself...
one piece.
My younger self, one piece of financial advice, it would be... start paying into a pension straight away.
Yeah.
If it could be one piece.
Yeah, that's good advice, because that's one thing you can continually pay for the rest of your life, especially with the employer contributions.
Yeah, it's the one thing that you can pay into that it's got by far the best tax relief benefits of anything else you can put your money into. But it's also something that you can't touch. That's for future you, and you can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. And that's good, because when you're 18, 19, 20, if you could get the money out of your pension, you would. So that protection is a good thing.
Yep.
But it will, like I said earlier, if you do that and you keep doing that and you stick to a plan, you do the right things, then you'll be very well off in retirement, and you can continue living either the lifestyle that you have been while you're working, or potentially even a better one.
Yeah.
So it can give you a better life, and that's ultimately my job role. It can be described as simple as I give my clients the best life possible within their means. There's obviously more complex than that behind the scenes, all the levers you have to pull and all the rules you have to understand and the structures to put in place, but that's ultimately the headline description. And there's many things that people can do without a financial planner that can help them do that as well.
Yeah.
So that would be my one piece of advice.
Just to touch on the pensions advice as well. So the employer contributions as well. I like to look at it as instant profit, you know, because if you put something in, I believe they have to match it up to a certain percentage. Do you know what percentage that is at all?
Yeah, so they don't have to match. A lot of employers do the matching, and some of them are really generous and they match it up to 10% sometimes.
That's amazing.
The current rules on auto enrollment, which are under review at the moment, are that depending on the size of company, the total percentage of contributions going into the pension should be 8%. The minimum requirement for the employer is 3%.
Okay.
So for a lot of employers and employees, it's a 3% from the employer and 5% from the employee of your base salary.
Still instant profit.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. And for those employers that will match higher, then, you know, as long as you're not right on the breadline, then do it, because like you said, it's free money.
Exactly.
And that's going into a environment. Now, obviously, you need to get an understanding as to how your portfolio is invested within your pension and your fees and all those sorts of things. And if you can make improvements there, great. But just high level, that's money going into an environment that's free from capital gains tax. Any interest derived is free from tax. Any dividends that derived are free from tax. And that pot, once you can access it, you get 25% of it tax-free. And all the money going in is tax-free as well. So if you've paid tax on it going in, you'll get tax relief back from HMRC. Or if it's paid directly from PAYE pre-tax, then obviously you don't pay the income tax that you would have if it had been paid into your hands. So the amount of benefits of those pension payments are enormous.
Yeah.
Now you can go further, and lots of employers will adopt a scheme called salary sacrifice. It's something that we do a lot with our clients, particularly those that are quite high earners. You know, if you earn over £100,000, there's some tax traps there to be aware of. You lose your personal allowance, potentially you lose your child tax credit benefits. And salary sacrifice is a way that the employer can effectively reduce your salary and replace it with a pension payment, which, for all the reasons I just explained, are hugely tax advantageous. There's also potential for the employer to make additional contributions into your pension on top of what they pay as a percentage through their saved national insurance employer contributions. So if they were to pay you £10,000 in salary, it's 15% now for an employer national insurance contribution. So it's £1,500 that they've saved by now paying that into a pension instead. So you can have a conversation with your employer, write them an email, say, look, will you add the saving that the company's made on national insurance contributions and pop that into my pension as well? Yeah. Most of them will. Or maybe there's a split there between the saving that they keep half it, you keep half it for the administration they've got to do that. But there's lots of little things that you can be doing, lots of little levers you can be pulling to really maximise the benefits of pensions. They're wonderful products.
Yeah, sound advice. Definitely. And well done to any employer paying more than 3%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some of them. I mean, you do find that the employers that are really looking for good talent will offer much better benefits. You know, they're the ones that be paying in 8, 10, 12%. And if you're paying over 12% and an employer's doing that and you're doing the same, you know, when you're looking at the sort of some of the principles you look around budgeting and saving and investing, it's a rule of thumb. It's not really a science, but the 50-30-20 rule, where 20% of your income should be going into savings or investments, then you're already at that level, which is great before you've even got your net income and put money into ISAs and savings and things. You're really on your way then. Yeah,
100%. There you go. Retirement should be made a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, anybody that's looking to change jobs or thinking about, you know, a new employer or a new career, you know, ask about these benefits, because an employer that's offering really generous pension benefits, don't underestimate that benefit. It's huge. It's massive.
See, when I used to go for job interviews, that should have been a question I asked, you know, what's the pension scheme like?
Yeah, I didn't when I started. It's not something you really think about, but it's one of the most important questions you can ask.
100%. They always ask you at the end, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, you always go, no, if I think of anything, I'll let you know.
Exactly.
You know? That's the one.
You're just happy you got through that interview, you know?
Exactly.
Sweating buckets.
You're already thinking about the amount of things you messed up on. And
exactly.
Yeah, no, you're always a little bit of a nervy time.
Exactly. So for our listeners or viewers who might be intimidated by the idea of financial planning, how would you describe what you do in the simplest terms?
I think I said it earlier. I help my clients live the best life possible within their means.
Okay.
And, I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not an investment manager. I'm not simply here to just try and get you a high returns on your investments. That's a part of it.
Yeah.
Sure. But as a financial planner, certainly in that first meeting with a client, I do very little talking. I ask questions, some closed, but mostly open, to understand what that client needs, what their objectives are, what their, sounds cheesy, but what their dreams and goals are. And often we'll then work backwards from there. So we understand what they're trying to achieve. What does that look like? Okay, so you want to live off this amount when you finish working, let's say. Okay, what do we need to generate to provide that level of income? Okay, that's what we need. Reverse engineer that back to today. What are the things we need to do now to make that a reality?
Yeah.
And then we put in the structures, and that's about the understanding of the legislation, the tax landscape, what are the correct tax wrappers we should be using, what are the tax reliefs we can be utilising, what are the allowances we should be maxing out. And then that's one part of it, that's just on them and their income and their tax. And then you think about the family, and you think about things that they might be saving for, family events, children's education, inheritance tax, succession planning, insurance, protecting the family. All these things come into what I do. And it's kind of a holistic life planning service. Yeah,
That's a good way of putting it. So a financial planner, is that the same thing as a financial advisor? Yeah,
they're interchangeable terms.
Okay.
I think financial advisor, there was some connotations that were linked to the old IFA. The IFA, you think of, your local IFA.
Yeah.
Lives down the street, pops around for a cup of tea. Fine, nothing wrong with that. Loads of really great people that call themselves IFAs.
And IFA stands for?
Independent Financial Advisor.
Okay, just keep in mind, not everybody out there understands these terms.
So that's Independent Financial Advisor. And that's actually a good point to make, because independence is another key thing in financial advice. I'm an independent financial advisor. Okay. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an IFA. I would call myself a chartered financial planner.
Okay.
So I'm chartered, which is, you can do further qualifications beyond just being diploma qualified to call yourself a financial advisor. I'm also a fellow of the Personal Finance Society, so that's one step further again from chartered. So it's within that governing body, that's as high a qualification as you can get. Now, I don't call myself a fellow of the Personal Finance Society to clients, because that doesn't really mean much to them. Mm-hmm. But a chartered financial planner, obviously everybody knows what chartered means. It's a gold standard in your industry. And financial planner describes a little bit more about what I do around the planning aspect of clients' lives. Yeah. Advisor, planner, wealth manager, they all essentially mean the same thing.
Okay.
Just some advisors or planners, they align themselves to one or the other, and it's up to them what they call themselves, really.
So what's one financial rule of thumb that you think everyone should know, and why?
Save before you spend.
Okay.
And the why is because in today's world, and again, I'll probably focus this more on the younger generation, it's so easy to spend your money now, easier than it's ever been. It's way, you talk to the older generation and they say, oh yeah, you just spend all your money on coffees and you're spending this on clothes and that. And, we never did that when we were younger. We saved our money, we bought our houses. Yeah. Look, forget the fact that house prices are 9 times the average salary price, which is the highest it's been for 150 years. Yeah. Forget that. Young people also have to deal with this incredibly sophisticated system of marketing now that the older generations never had to deal with. Yeah. They're on their phones and their devices a lot. That is down to how clever the development of these devices and the technology has been. And now these algorithms create such tailored marketing for that individual person. Yeah. The other side of that screen are hundreds, thousands of the smartest people in the world writing code to create algorithms that take money out of your pocket and put it in theirs to buy things that you don't need. It's very, very hard to fight against that because it is so tailored for you. You feel like it knows you so well because it does. It's been scraping data from you for years. And that's why it's so hard to save now, because if you put saving secondary, the spending, so you think, oh, well, I've got this at the start of the month, I'll spend my money, and then whatever I've left at the end, I will save. It's save first, pay yourself first. And this kind of leads into something that, again, I talk about in things like schools, and there's a lot of people that think that they're just bad with money and that's it. Well, there's three things you can do that can really make a difference. And the first thing is understanding your spending habits. So spend a month tracking what you're spending, or just go back and look through your spending from the previous month. Do that exercise. Then go through it and work out how much of that spending was not needed, and figure out what budget you might have to put some money aside instead of those purchases that you didn't need to do. And then going forward, your third step is to put that money into a savings account, ideally a pension, because you also get your tax relief. So if you're able to put just £100 into a pension, the government's going to give you £25. It grosses that up straight away. Potentially, you get another £25 back as well if you're a high rate taxpayer. So that's an immediate uplift on what you put into your pension. You then also can't touch it. Which is a key thing. You know, stocks and shares ISAs, cash ISAs, savings accounts, they're all great, but they're still accessible. And if you are struggling with spending, then, you know, that's still there for you to take if you need it. I say need loosely. So yeah, there's a 3-step process there to help with the save before you spend, for anybody that feels like they're struggling to get a grip of their finances. Do that exercise, and the sooner you do that, the more that what you're putting away will compound and grow. And when you start to see that growth, it will bring it to life a little bit. And that's when, you know, you'll thank yourself later.
See, I think a lot of people do make a lot of impulsive purchases as well. So if you do have money just lying around in your current account, cash in your pocket, what you see that interests you'll probably buy it without thinking twice.
100%.
You know.
Yeah, there's a little hack you can use where, you know, make sure you have you know, if it's a pension or an ISA or whatever it might be, try and make it easy to add money into. So, you know, if it has an app or an online account that you can easily top up, things like that, where you've got purchases that are impulse buys. You know, you see a top that someone's wearing on Instagram and you think, oh, that's really nice. Click on shop now. One click buy, that's easy, 35 quid. If you can stop yourself in that process to think for a second, think, I was going to buy that, but I'm not going to. If you really desperately want it, a day or two later, you know, I'm not saying don't treat yourself from time to time. Put that 35 quid away into your savings instead, because it was gone. It was basically gone at that point.
Exactly.
So put it away.
Exactly.
Put that into something that's out of your bank account, but you've still got it. It's still yours. You haven't traded it in for a jumper that you're going to not wear after 2 months.
Exactly.
These little things you can do, but you've got to train yourself and you've got to work on it, because it's, like I said, it is not easy to resist the impulse. And of course, you know, we're in this world of instant gratification, and it's really hard to save now. And everything, you know, house, like I said, house prices and what it takes now to save to buy your first home is harder than it's ever been. It's all creating this worrying trend that younger generations are really up against, and it's no surprise that more young people are living at home with their parents than there ever has been, and that is going to have an impact on mental health. It's going to have an impact on their independence, and all these things are important to have a productive country. On
relationships, on the future of our children as well.
Exactly, So,
that will continue for a while.
Definitely.
I mean, I almost bought a Galaxy Watch this morning.
You were saying, yeah.
You know, I just want a new fitness watch. I've had a Fitbit for a few years. I think it's a bit outdated now, and I want something that pairs with my phone well. But because I only thought of the idea, well, I mean, I've noticed I've needed it for a while, but I only thought of the Galaxy Watch this morning.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, it was around 300 quid, and I thought, you know what? If I buy it now, it's impulsive. I can still count my calories, or, you know, when I'm exercising and so on, measure my heart rate on my old watch. So what I'm going to do is see if I still want it in a month's time.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I guess I can just save little bit by bit and put aside and not feel so much leave my account all in one go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's great self-restraint. It's a good thing to practice doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it was hard, because I'm like, a shiny new watch. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone likes a new toy.
Yeah, they do. I know. I'm guilty for it as well. I love gadgets, and I'm fascinated by technology, and I love trying out all these new things. But yeah, you got to draw the line at some points, and you got to think, do I really need this? And if the answer is no, then as often as you can, try to resist.
You know, my grandparents are, if it's not broken, don't fix it type people.
Yeah.
You know, I remember they had like this really old toaster. It looks a bit rusty. It just looks horrible.
Yeah.
I bought them a new toaster for Christmas.
Yeah.
That toaster sat in the box in the kitchen for about 2-3 years. Until the other one just wasn't going down anymore.
Yeah. And then like, we've got that new toaster in the attic. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if I took a leaf out of their book some more, I would save so much money. They really don't buy what they don't need at all. They
don't know.
Wear the same clothes for years and years. They even wear clothes with some holes in it, you know. They just wear the good clothes when they go out to nice places.
Yeah.
And the stuff with the holes in it, they just
wear on the
relaxing around the house. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, with me, I mean, I got plenty nice clothes. See something else, I'm like, yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
I'd look good in that.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I just think that's where we are in society these days.
Yeah. And it kind of comes on to that point I said earlier about my client who wouldn't buy the freezer. You know, the older generation have... they were so stuck in their ways, and they had this saving mentality. One of the biggest challenges I have is sometimes getting clients to have more of a healthy balance around that, because you don't live your life a certain way for 50 years, then automatically switch into being a spender. Mm-hmm. So you want people to enjoy their lives when they're retired, and sometimes I have to really encourage people to spend their money because they won't do it. I don't think we're going to have quite that same challenge with with the Gen Zers when they get there. Yeah. They have a whole different challenge of trying to be a bit more like their parents and grandparents were. So yeah.
Cool. So we're about to move into the next series of topics. We're going to talk about some money habits. What is the single biggest financial mistake you see people making over and over again?
The biggest mistake I see people making over and over again. Well, it depends where we want to go with this. So generally, it's probably buying things that people don't need, which we just covered off.
Yes.
Talking about impulsive spending, buying things that their algorithm convinces you that you need, which is very difficult to fight against. But you do still have the willpower to not make those purchases, and be a bit smarter with your money and give that to yourself instead, your future self. The other one, probably if it was to be in the slightly more sophisticated investment space, would be trying to time the markets.
Right.
That's something that is incredibly difficult to do successfully, consistently. Some of the smartest people I've ever met, Harvard graduates, Oxford graduates who run investment management houses or funds, get it wrong a lot of the time. And they've got armies of researchers and analysts providing them data and information to make decisions on behalf of their clients, and they get it wrong. And there is, in some areas, you know, active investment and making proactive decisions within a portfolio can really benefit. And there's plenty of examples where there isn't. Now, if these guys get it wrong, I watch, I don't know, some influencer on Instagram trying to give advice and telling people they should be day trading to make loads of money like they did. It's a scam, and the risks are not highlighted properly.
Okay. Speaking of influencers and scamming around day trading and stuff, a lot of these like seminars, pyramid type schemes pop up all over the place, where it will be one person speaking to a group of people who's already signed up to this platform that they say put in this much X amount of pounds and you'll get X amount back at the end of every month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually get incentives for signing somebody else up to this scheme as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of stuff like that before?
Well, it sounds like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, me as a semi-educated person, anytime I see just something with that sort of
Trial.
yeah, exactly. You know, I'm just like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But, you know, they would always have people giving testimonials online and so on. And they're actually...
And often really credible people, you know, people that you know or recognize.
Exactly. And
yeah.
I'm thinking, because it then entices you a little bit, because you're like, well, if so-and-so did it and they're not losing money.
Yep.
So if someone's losing money, they wouldn't make that video. So you actually think, should I? You know, I mean, I've always avoided it. I think easy money is hard to keep on to anyway.
Yeah. Thing is, the way those things work are that person's 9 times out of 10 not actually done what they said they've done, but they've been paid to do an ad. So they're not losing money because they're doing paid work.
Yeah.
I have a massive problem with this, because it is rife, and
I think
it's something our industry needs to do better at, which is try and cut through some of that noise on social media, because for a long time we've always been quite wary around the use of social media to promote proper education, because it's such a highly regulated industry. But there are some really great individuals out there making some really fantastic content, which is counteracting some of this influencer noise, which some of the stats around where people get their advice from, and you know, how people think about influencers and their understanding of the advice that they're giving. You know, they're treated as credible sources, but they're not. You know, I see some people on there that call themselves financial advisors. You just got to quickly just go on the FCA register. If you ever want to know if somebody is a qualified financial advisor, go on the register, put their name in. Do they show up? If not, don't take advice from them. Good
advice. And finfluencer, I'm guessing that stands for financial influence.
Yes. Sorry, finfluence is the unqualified finfluencers, which you see loads of them. Like you said, you know, they're signing people up for these courses, get rich quick schemes.
Yeah. I believe some of them say they use trading bots and things like that as well, where they say you're guaranteed not to lose, and
yeah.
No one can guarantee you're not going to lose. Oh.
No, as soon as anybody says that, then walk away.
Yeah. Good. Is there any money habit that wealthy people tend to have in common?
Quite often they can be quite tight. Yeah, they keep their money close.
Yeah.
You know, I also know lots of wealthy people who are very generous with their money as well. So that's not a rule of thumb. But I would just say that they make good decisions more often than not. And are typically have been willing to take some degree of risk along the way. Now, that might not be a huge risk. It just might mean that, let's say they had a multi-asset investment portfolio inside a pension or an ISA, and they decided to have most of that exposed to the stock market, because as an asset class, over a long period of time, that's typically going to get you a better return than the banks or commodities or commercial property would, for example. Mm-hmm. And then there's others who've taken a far higher degree of risk, such as business owners that, you know, invest a lot in themselves and their own ventures, who've done very well from that. So yeah, I'd say it's a combination of making good decisions and risk, but, you know, considered and managed risk, often through advice.
Okay, so being quite tight though, I think that's something that helps the rich stay rich. Because I did read something quite a while back. I think it was called like How the Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Poorer. And it was just basically around being tight, to be honest. You know, we're two people who generally don't have much to live on or live check to check.
Yeah.
They are normally quite messy with their spending. and just, walk down the street, walk into a shop, buy almost £2 for a bottle of 500ml bottle of drink these days. And they don't realize how much that £2 adds up along with their other spending, and just takes away all their money almost instantly when they get paid.
Yeah. And look, the last thing those people want to hear is someone like me saying, "Oh, if you invested that £2, that could be worth this much over this much."
Yeah.
That's not what they want to hear. But yeah, generally you're right. Just overall decision making is just better, and that generally comes with being a little bit more, keeping that back pocket zipped up and keeping your money closer. Is a big part of that,
which is very hard of how much everything costs in the supermarket these days. But
yeah, I know.
Try.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's we can sit here and give advice and everything, but the realities of for many people what life is like is hard, and living in the UK is expensive.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be one of those guys that says, every single person has got the ability to make themselves loads of money, because that would be disingenuous. But everybody can make better decisions. And then combined with that, we want our governments to create environments that provide more opportunities and more jobs and more growth, and working together, that can create a better society. But that does also mean that everybody individually has to help themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your opinion? Should people track every penny, or is that too extreme?
I don't think that's too extreme in the short term. So you don't need to track your every penny forever. But what I would suggest is, if you are struggling to save and you're struggling to put money aside, then you do need to at least do an exercise where you are tracking everything that you're spending. Do that for a month, or go back and look at your last month or 2 months or 3 months and take an average of what you're spending each month and what you're spending that on, and try and categorize that into essentials. Obviously bills, rent, mortgage, all those things, you're going to have to spend that. That has to be spent.
Yeah.
And then you have food, and you have clothing, and you have going out and entertainment and subscriptions and things like that, which are those are things that make life worth living. It gives you colour, and I wouldn't suggest do anything different with that. But beyond that, going out and having coffees, buying things online you don't need, and we're all guilty of it. Try and find out exactly what that costs you, and then once you've done that exercise, the next step is to, every time you get paid, that amount that you've been spending frivolously, put that into savings, ideally into a pension, and get the tax relief benefits as well. And then the third step is automating that, and do that every month, and then try and be a bit more considerate with your purchases, and that'll make an enormous difference to you down the line.
I think a lot of us find purchases that we give excuses for due to our overloaded lifestyles.
Yeah.
And, they think every now and then ordering on Deliveroo or Uber Eats isn't that detrimental to their bank account, but one person probably can't eat on Uber Eats for less than £15, whereas you could probably cook for a few days on £15. And I have a friend who's just constantly, a few times a week, on Uber Eats.
Yeah.
And I tell him, do you know how much money you would save over a month? And I made him calculate it the other day, and he did say he'd probably save about £500.
That's incredible. And look, that's it's a nice thing to do if you've got friends over, or if it's a Friday evening, all part of life. But if you're spending £500 a month, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
You can really help yourself out there. That's a fair chunk of surplus income each month that you could have, which you don't have to necessarily give up. If you're worried about not having access to it because, I don't know, you're worried about job security, whatever it might be, then just put it away into an ISA, cash ISA, stocks and shares ISA, whatever you're comfortable with. But make sure you're taking it out of your bank account and giving it to your future self.
So when he gets paid,
instead of giving it to Uber Eats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, as you said earlier on, so when he gets paid, he should just take that money, pull it into a savings, they probably feel a bit more guilty taking money out of his savings just to buy a burger from Five Guys. You know?
Yeah, and that's good. You know, if he feels that's not a bad guilt to have. That's a guilt that's a helpful guilt.
Yeah.
And he'll quickly get over that because he's realizing he's doing the right thing. So that guilt will turn into he'll feel good about himself.
So are there small realistic changes that most people can make that will transform their finances over time?
Yes. We touched on it earlier, but if you have savings, little things like shopping around and switching to better interest rate accounts is a good one.
Yeah.
Staying on top of that, because it's very easy as an existing customer to suddenly quite quickly be given a much worse deal than a new customer would be. So make sure that's something that doesn't take an awful lot of your time. It's very easy to switch now online as well. Not to promote anything, but Money Saving Expert's a great tool to use just to do some quick comparisons as to what the best cash ISAs are out there, what the best savings accounts are out there.
Yeah.
So there's that. And getting a grip of your spending. I know we just touched on it, but those two things, taking care of your savings, taking care of your spending, which will lead into freeing up some budget to do more savings. And once you've gone beyond having enough short-term savings in cash to last you for an emergency pot, then you're looking at investments and long-term savings like into your pensions. And the things you can do there is just get an understanding of your underlying investment portfolio and the fees and charges of that particular product, whether that be an ISA provider or a pension provider. Not necessarily, get the cheapest thing possible, because cheap can often be expensive in the financial industry. Mm-hmm. But make sure you understand what you're paying and make sure you feel like you're getting value for it. And take some time to understand how you should be invested, understand your risk profile, what you're comfortable with, what your appetite is, what your capacity for loss is. Obviously, that could be a lot higher if you're talking about a pension fund and you're younger, because volatility is I guess less important, unless you really feel it. If you feel uncomfortable even in a pension pot that you can't touch and you don't like the fact that your fund is going up and down, then you have that time horizon to be able to, as we touched on earlier, ride out those periods of volatility or dips in the market. And but yeah, got to get a good understanding of all those things, put it into practice, and it really doesn't take as much work as maybe you think it does. Sometimes it can be a bit daunting because you think you go straight from I'm bad with money to having lots of money, and that jump feels enormous and insurmountable. But just take a few small steps, and you will be on this journey. You asked me earlier what my number one, or so what one word I would describe my relationship with money is, which is evolving.
Yeah.
So that's true, I think, for most people, and you slowly evolve and you slowly get a better and better relationship with money over time if you firstly educate yourself and then put into practice the things that you're learning.
And the younger you start, the better the compounding interest will work in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few videos on this sort of stuff. The younger you start, there's all sorts of numbers and stats and things you can find online of the difference starting at 20 years to starting at 40. It is mind-blowing.
I'd advise to try a compounding interest calculator and just put your numbers in, see what your life will look like in 50 years,
Definitely. Yeah, it's a really good piece of advice. And if that doesn't shock you, then I don't know what will.
Exactly. Every time I look at it, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Be rich.
yeah.
Gotta be rich, but you gotta wait until a certain age before you get there. But the more you put in while you're young, the more sacrifices you make, you can achieve those numbers, in your 40s.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you don't have to do things, you don't have to take drastic measures. Mm-hmm. It's like anything in life.
Yeah.
It's like starting a podcast. It's better to be consistent and do things regularly than trying to make enormous changes really, really quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Consistency is the key.
Yeah, that's great advice. And also, a lot of companies do profit off your comfort as well. So when you're talking about changing your bank accounts maybe, or even down to your internet provider or your mobile phone.
We were talking about it before the podcast, weren't we? Yeah.
You know, if you stay with these companies, they just keep raising the prices on you.
Yeah.
And you never get the new customer benefits.
No.
You know, it's okay to move around to different companies. I know sometimes it takes time out of our lives. You got to sit there for a few hours, figuring things out, sit there to customer service for an hour or two, trying to cancel your old plans. But it's worth it in the end. I think everybody should take maybe 1 day or 2 days a year.
Yeah.
And just sit down and review all the people you pay money to and see if you can cut that cost a little bit.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. And there's some really good apps out there now, like budgeting apps that will scrape data from your bank accounts and put it into a nice sort of summary for you. You can see, well, okay, this is how much you're paying everybody. These are the amount of people that you're paying. These are all your subscriptions. And they're really useful.
Yeah. I think if I saw those numbers in one, I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
A little scary, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it's quite common for you to maybe just check one bank account, but maybe you've got a couple of things that might be linked to your PayPal or to your Monzo or, one of your cards, for example. Once you start to add all that in together, you think, oof, that's how much life costs.
Exactly. It's just like with your car insurance renewal, if you get your renewal through the post every year, if you just take that price, you're almost certainly paying more than if you was to actually just research the markets. Out there for you.
100%. Particularly in the last few years, insurance companies really taking the mick. Yeah.
I don't understand that. It's meant to be going down for me, but it's going up.
Everything's going up. And I mean, you're not talking, you see the CPI figures and you're thinking, pretty sure life's going up at a faster rate than, 3%?
What's CPI?
The consumer price index is inflation.
Oh, okay.
So the government have a target CPI of 2% at all times. And they're always trying to get either back down to it or back up to it.
Remember a few years ago, it was like 10%.
Yes, it was, yeah. So this was soon after the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and it was when inflation was very, very high. A lot of that was to do with supply chain issues and the hangover from COVID and the expense it was or the expense that trade had become. Yeah. Construction prices were going through the roof. And that affected the CPI. Yeah, you're right, it was above 10% at one point. It is back down now almost to target levels. That's been done through a combination of reduced spending, fiscal policy from the government, and monetary policy from the Bank of England by increasing interest rates. Because in increasing interest rates, it sounds harsh, but it squeezes the population, the majority of the population who have mortgages. If you increase interest rates, your mortgage costs go exponentially higher, and that means you have less money to spend. Therefore, there's less money being spent, prices come back down. So there's this constant cycle and battle that the Bank of England and the government try and keep inflation under control, whilst not enraging the entire population with everything costing too much.
I must say, I haven't felt the actual prices go down. Like earlier on today, I bought some ingredients to make my own pizza at home. And to be honest, it would have been cheaper just buying pizzas from a local takeaway,
Really?
Yeah, But at the same time, I did buy a whole packet of mints and things like that.
Yeah.
So I could, make bits to go on top of the pizza. But even still, I think I bought a kilo of mints so I could use the other bit to make some bolognese afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So you're being smart with it.
Yeah. But it was like £9.10 for a kilo of mints, 5% fat, where it used to be, I think it was like £5 something, £6 something a few years ago. Yeah.
I think this is, CPI is essentially, they take a basket of goods.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you would have in a supermarket. Yeah. They calculate the cost of it increasing year on year. But I mean, I've done some articles in the past around, energy prices, insurance prices, all these sorts of things, and life is in reality more expensive than a 2% increase year on year. And that's where long-term investing comes into it, because if you just have it's great to save, of course it is, and having money in cash is fantastic because that's there in case you ever need it, but the interest rate the bank's going to pay you is not going to keep pace with living costs. So if you have a significant amount of money in the bank account and you don't do anything with it, years down the line, that will erode in value. It's a surefire way of reducing your wealth.
Yeah.
So you need to do something with the majority of your savings. You need to do something, whether it's investing in a diversified portfolio.
Yeah.
The asset allocation of that portfolio, very much down to your level of risk, but that's still going to be better than having money sat in the bank account.
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways you can invest, and that's obviously something that you'd need to figure out or speak to an advisor about. But try and do something with it.
A way I used to explain that to my friends would be, like say you had £10,000 and, the inflation increase was, say, 10% or something like that, but your bank will probably only give you maybe 1.5 to something like that percent on something.
Yeah, in a current account, probably even less.
Yeah. I used to tell them you'll be better off holding cans of Coke. Because, that can of Coke will go out more in value than your actually money sitting in the bank would be. Because that can of Coke would go from 70p to £1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas the money in your bank will go from 10,000 to £10,050.
Yeah, and in today's terms, that 10,000 is probably going to be worth 6,000 in 10 years. It's
don't buy as much cans of Coke anymore.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a great way. It's a great way of putting it.
Yeah,
cans of Coke. Yeah.
You could buy 10,000 cans of Coke now.
Yeah.
In a couple of years, that same money would only probably afford you 9,000 cans of Coke.
But you've got £10,000 worth of cans of Coke still.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You could even drink a few and still be better off.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy money, isn't it? Right. So speaking of percentages, though, what percentage of monthly income should go towards rent, and does that change if you have a mortgage?
It's a good question. Typically, 50% of your income is spent on essentials, bills, but that also includes things like utilities and water, gas, electric. Probably 80% of that category is your rent and your mortgage, or rent or mortgage. Rental is a set cost. That doesn't increase until the landlord increases your rent.
Yes.
That can be completely down to the landlord at their discretion. So there's the risk that it can change in that sense. And a mortgage, depending on the type of mortgage you have, if you have a fixed rate for a period of time, that's what the cost is going to be. Mm-hmm. If it's variable, then your mortgage cost is liable to change depending on the Bank of England interest rate. So mortgages can be even more fixed than rent. They can also be more variable than rent, depending on the type of mortgage that you have. But in terms of the cost in total, with interest rates as they currently are, and around about somewhere between 3 and 4%, it probably is not going to make a huge amount of difference if it's the same type of property, how much it costs in rent and how much you pay in mortgages. A few years ago, when interest rates were 0.25% for a similar type property, it probably was a lot more expensive to rent than it would have been to have a mortgage.
Okay.
2 years later, as we just said, when interest rates were chasing inflation, it was up at 10%.
Yeah.
Mortgages became more expensive than rent.
Yeah.
And in fact, just the interest alone on those mortgage payments was as expensive as rent. And then you add on your repayment as well, and all of a sudden it's a really chunky amount that you're paying month on month.
And if you was having a fixed mortgage, you're probably still stuck on terrible rates now, would you?
Yeah, well, if you took it out when the rates were high, yes. Yeah. Some people took out 5-year mortgages back in 2021. We're laughing now because they saw out all that period where the interest rates peaked and then came back down, and they were still paying their low rates of 1.5%, 2%, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yes. If you got a 5-year mortgage, you're in a nice position anyway, right?
Yeah. That's if you can get it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure most people are on like 25, 30 years. And...
Oh, I mean a 5-year term on the rate.
Oh, okay.
So you can renew, it'd be like normally a 35, 30, 25-year mortgage, isn't it?
True.
But you take it out in stages. You go, right, we'll fix in for 2 years on this level of interest rate, or we'll fix in for 5 years, and then you renew your mortgage in those periods.
So they didn't see any of the hikes that other people saw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe you took out a 2-year mortgage back in 2020, for example, and then you've got a remortgage in 2022 when interest rates have peaked, and then you're like, our costs are going to go through the roof. Yeah. So it's a tough thing to try and predict.
Yeah.
Obviously, the longer the term you can get, if you're happy and the rate is affordable, normally a good thing to do, because you're fixing in something you know is affordable.
So you're saying 50% is around a good amount of your monthly income that you should be paying towards your rent and your bills and so on.
Yeah, rent, bills, car, and then you've got another sort of 30% that you'd spend on food and clothing and entertainment and subscriptions and things, and then general additional living costs, and maybe a little bit towards holiday funds. And then ideally, I know 20% might sound like a lot, but that's ideally what you should be putting into your long-term savings.
Okay.
And that includes what you put into your pension. So if an employer is paying in a good chunk into your pension, you include that as well.
Do you think a lot of people are probably living over that 50%, to be honest?
I've no doubt that lots of people are. Yeah.
Because, young people can't wait to move out. That's one thing they try and do, and they do it too early.
Yeah.
They realize the cost, they're living in single rooms in people's houses for like £600-700 a month. They've just entered the working world.
Yeah.
They're making like just under $2,000 a month. They've got all these things. They've always wanted this latest phone. Phone bills are like, for the latest iPhone, like £90 a month. I've seen contracts for ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
They never existed before, but
again, it's one of those things. In the iPhone, Apple have made it almost like it's almost become like an essential.
Yeah.
You have to have the newest iPhone. You don't have to have it.
No.
But if you want to participate in, social media and everything else, then all of this new technology is all on these new phones. Mm-hmm. And you do feel. I understand you would feel very sort of left behind if you weren't keeping up with that.
Exactly. Like imagine earning £2,000 a month, £700 on rent, £100 on your phone, £100 on little things like all the little subscriptions that you have.
If you're paying for a car.
So on, car insurance.
Yeah.
That's crazy when you think about it. I like to try and buy things outright.
Yeah.
If I can. I bought my car, I bought it outright, I had to save for it.
Yeah.
But I'd rather that than paying interest.
Buying anything outright is it is obviously so much better. You can scale that right up to buying houses, and it's one of the things that you don't really think about, but we touched on it earlier around the rich and poor divide, and the rich staying richer and the poor staying poorer. If you were to buy a £300,000 house, but you were rich and you had £300,000 in cash that you could buy it with, that house costs you £300,000 plus a little bit of legal fees. If you haven't got £300,000 in cash, which most of us don't have, that house is going to cost you closer to £500,000 once you add on all the interest that you pay every year for those next 35 years.
Crazy.
So things are just cheaper if you have the money already.
Yeah. And it's really hard to probably save £300,000 as well. A lot of people probably could do it.
You can save £300,000
for a long time. Though, So, but it's just best if you do have like a 30-year mortgage to just, if you have the extra money, make extra payments when you can to try and turn that 30 years down into 25 years, 20 years, 15 years. Just do what you can to save that future interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sound advice.
Definitely very expensive. So if someone had £30,000, what would you recommend? They take out a mortgage or continue to rent?
Oh, so they wanted to buy a house?
So they're currently renting, but they got £30,000 saved in the bank. They're thinking to either buy a house or continue to rent. They don't know what's better for their situation.
There's pros and cons to both. I mean, renting allows for more flexibility. You're not taking on a huge amount of debt with a mortgage. This country is a little bit obsessed with property ownership.
Yeah.
And that has come with some negatives as well. There's so much illiquid wealth in this country trapped in home ownership.
Yeah.
Not only does that mean that it's harder for younger people to buy first homes because the house prices have gone through the roof, but it's also just locked away all of this wealth which could be invested in the country and helping our economy. If you go across to the continent, somewhere like Germany, there's a very different mentality there. Most people over there rent, and they're absolutely fine with it.
Yeah.
There's this sort of obsession about owning a property. That being said, just financially, of course, it's probably better to be paying into an asset that you own. You know, if the majority of what you're paying each month is actually just a repayment on an asset which is going to be yours, which hopefully would appreciate over time, then yes, that's better than throwing away more money than that and giving it to somebody else to help pay their mortgage.
Yeah.
So, typically, if buying a house is something that is a goal for you, then
So a situation I saw the other day, which points me more in the mortgage direction, is my grandparents, one of their friends.
Yeah.
He's like in his 80s now, but he's actually living in a shared house, in a single room.
Yeah. Renting,
yes. After years of, not having a property.
Yeah.
And, he's at an age where he's only receiving a pension now, so he doesn't really have an income.
Sure.
So he's only able to spend what he can afford, which is from the state pension.
Yeah.
So therefore, he could only afford living in a shared house.
Sure.
Which I think is something I really don't want to be doing at that age, especially if I have a family and, it's just not something I want to do. And I don't think a lot of people want to do it. So I do think the mortgage route is something that will help you in the future if it's just for somewhere to live.
Yeah, obviously, particularly with a family, it offers security, it offers, ownership in something. It's just, it's hard to get away from the fact that it's more difficult now to buy a house than ever. And I don't want people to despair if they're not able to make that work. Renting and ownership are just two different routes of living in a property. In an ideal world, you'd own the property, and you'd pay off that debt, and it would be yours in the future, so that when you're retired, you're comfortable in a house that is owned by you.
Exactly.
If you can work towards that, and that's what you want to do, then great.
I guess we're not as fortunate as our grandparents as well, because the thing is, he's from my grandparents' generation. Yeah. And he should have went for a house back then, because my grandparents bought their house for £7,500.
And what's it worth now?
Like 400 odd,
Yeah.
They don't value it. They don't have it checked out or anything like that. But when I've checked the local houses on the same street, they're all
That's
like
crazy, isn't it?
But I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like back then as well, I'm pretty sure they were probably earning maybe $1,000 a year, probably, or something around then. I'm not too sure, but it wasn't. You could see that the housing price was more affordable, because you could, with two incomes, you can pay that off in 10 years. Yeah. Now with a housing price of 400,000 and people earning, say, I'm not too sure what the average income is.
It's a high 20s.
High 20s. It makes even. I was going to say 40 a second ago.
No, I mean, it depends where you are in the UK, of course.
But
that would get around 40 in.
Let's say 30 grand though. £400,000 house. In 10 years, one person doesn't have enough. 10 years, two people would have enough. But in 10 years, you're going to spend probably the same cost of your house on just other things. Yeah. Yeah. So, it takes a long time to pay a house off. So I do think getting a mortgage as soon as you can is a great idea. I've seen deposits have gone down to 5% in some places.
Yeah, they have. There's some work being done in government consultations at the moment. White papers on pensions, and one of the things that they looked at a little while ago, this was back in David Cameron's government, is they did a white paper on the Lifetime ISA. Lifetime ISA is a product that you can use now, and you can add money into it to use to buy your first home. So if you can put £4,000 a year into it, and the government will give you £1,000 bonus. So It's £5,000 a year that you'll have in your ISA, and you can use that either to buy your first home before the age of 40, or if you don't buy a home till that point, you can take it as a pension from age 60.
Okay.
But if you take it out before 60 for anything other than buying your house, you have that bonus taken back off you, and a little bit more. So you get penalised.
Is it capped?
No, it's not capped. There's no lifetime cap on it.
So, but for how much percentage they'll give you for buying your first home? So for every 4,000 you put in, they give you 25%, which is 1,000.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I've got a right to buy ISA as well.
Help to buy, yeah.
Help to buy ISA, yeah. And it was, I believe they capped it on 25% on up to 12 grand.
12 grand, that's it, yeah.
So is that the same for...
There's no cap on the lifetime ISA, no.
No cap on?
No. You do have limitations as to the value of the property you can buy. So £400,000 is the value of the property, the maximum value of a property you can buy. But there's no cap on how much you can put into that lifetime ISA now.
So if someone was to be in that lifetime
other than the annual cap.
Okay, so 4,000 putting in. So if they put in over the space of 10 years 40,000, they will get given 10,000 by the government to help purchase this property.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Brilliant. It's a really good product, and most of the banks and investment platforms now have them.
Okay.
Not everyone's really aware of them.
Okay, no, I'm not.
But lifetime ISAs were originally designed to be a sort of hybrid ISA pension, and I love this idea, and I really think it would work well. And it would target two big problems with the country at the moment. One of them is first-time buyers getting on the property ladder, and the other is people saving for their retirements. We can't afford to pay state pensions at triple ox for the next 50 years. You know, people our age are going to see a very different structure of state benefits when we finish working.
Yeah.
And no idea what it will look like, but the cost to the government is astronomical. So that will change. So there is this impetus on individuals to save for their own retirement. Hence, auto-enrollments come in. They've effectively passed the weight and the cost onto employers by forcing them to add into employees' pensions. And that trend will continue. Now, the lifetime ISA in the white paper consultation was designed to be this product where potentially your employer would pay into it. You would pay into it in the same way that you do with pensions now. But before the age of 30, you could use that fund for a deposit on a house. Or if you don't use it by 30, then it's a pension and you don't have it until you get to age 55.
Or 40.
Well, this was the consultation period. Yeah. The lifetime ISA now is... it's nothing to do with employers, it's nothing to do with auto-enrollment, it's nothing to do with pensions. So it just became another version of the Help to Buy ISA with some slightly different features and slightly more improvements to it. But like I said, initially it was to be that product that employers and you would pay into when you started working. So if you built up a fund of, £10,000-15,000 maybe, by the time you're 30, which I think a lot of people would find achievable. If you go into work from 16, you're likely to have done that. And then you can use that to buy a house, because a lot of people are getting to 30, 35 and they've got that sort of money in a pension, maybe a bit more even, but they've got nothing in the way of savings, or certainly nowhere near enough to put a deposit down on a house. So the ability to kind of almost use your pension to buy your house, or what's called a lifetime ISA in consultation, is something that I think the government may go back to. It's almost like a sidecar investment where you either use it to buy a house or you use it for your retirement. Obviously, if you did use it to buy a house, then you're almost starting from zero again from a certain age. But as long as you're doing that when you're young enough, still in your 20s, then particularly with the age of sort of retirement going up as we get older and it getting more expensive for the government to pay state pensions, then that's still long enough for someone to build their pension pot back up. So that could be something that they come back to in the consultations that they're doing now. And
through life, people should always be progressing anyway, and getting a better salary. Should never be too comfortable on the same salary.
No, ideally, yeah. I mean, the sort of elephant in the room is that when we're talking about budgeting and everyone can do this a little bit more with what you've got, try and earn as much as you can as well. Yeah.
Side hustles,
whatever it might be. Yeah, look, go into your employer, putting together really well thought out arguments as to why you should be paid more. And you know, that will happen if you're productive and if you're hardworking.
So with the Help to Buy ISA and the Lifetime ISA, could you potentially have both and get the government to support you in both when it comes to time to buying a house?
Yes, you can have both. You can also transfer your Help to Buy ISA into your Lifetime ISA.
Okay.
So with the Help to Buy ISA, you put in, is it £3,000 or no? You get a monthly maximum, don't you? That you can put in
£200 a month. Yeah.
You can do a top up to start, and then it's £200 a month.
Yes.
And then you're capped out until you get to £12,000, and then you can use that, and then the top up once you buy your house. You can just move all of that into your Lifetime ISA, and you can get the benefit immediately. So with the Lifetime ISA, they give you the bonus as you go, instead of giving it to you when you buy a house. So I personally think that they're just better.
So they give it to you as you go, you saying. So you're saying if I say £4,000 this year,
if you put £4,000 in today,
yeah,
normally within 30 days or so, you'll have the £1,000 added into that pot.
Put into your account. And you couldn't just withdraw that money to go and buy something else that's not a house.
No, you can obviously withdraw the money, but what happens is you get penalised 25%.
Ah, got you.
That might sound like they're just taking the bonus back off you.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more of a penalty than that. So if you put £100 in and you get 25% bonus, you get £125.
Yeah.
If you then took out that £125, it's 25% on 125.
Okay.
So you're getting back 90 odd instead of the £100 you put in.
Yeah.
So it's
that's actually very smart.
yeah, no free lunches.
That's good. That's a good idea. I think I might, because I have a Help to Buy.
Yeah.
And I actually stopped paying into it once I reached the 12,000 because it's a bit pointless.
Yeah.
Going, because now I'm just saving at a terrible interest rate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, with a Lifetime ISA, you know, most of the major investment platforms or banks will have them now, and you know, particularly if you go through a platform, then you don't have to just hold that in cash. You can invest that money as well if you wanted to.
Okay, so but that only works for first-time buyers when they're buying a property. So if someone's already bought a property and they're saving on a Lifetime ISA, the only great benefit will be saving towards a pension.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And there's the slight new quirk or difference to a pension and a Lifetime ISA for retirement savings purposes is that you can't touch the Lifetime ISA until you're 60, whereas a pension is 55. So slight difference in the age there. Is
there anything in writing that will make sure that you get it at 60? Because obviously the retirement age changes. You know, it used to be 65. I'm sure now it's like 67. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's in the current legislation, but legislation can change.
Yeah.
I mean, they are moving the pension age from 55 up to 57.
Okay, that's your personal pension age, isn't it?
Yes, that's your personal pension age.
The state pension's above that.
Yeah, that's creeping up to 66 and 67.
Yeah.
Probably will be something like 70, 72 by the time we get
there.
Yeah. So, you know, those ages can change. But the one thing that legislation never really does is it doesn't retrospectively punish you. So, you know, if you've done a bit of planning and then they change legislation, it rarely makes what you've done, you know, completely null and void. It will change things going forward, and it might mean you've got to change your planning. I mean, they have done a lot of that around inheritance tax recently, which has really changed things. But around pensions, there's always rumours and speculation that they're going to make wholesale changes and remove the tax-free cash benefit and all this sort of thing. They have brought them back into your estate. So with pensions before, whenever I would speak to clients about their benefits, and I've talked about how good pensions are today, the thing that I don't say anymore, because from 2027 it's no longer a benefit, but pensions also used to sit outside, well, they still do today still, they sit outside of your estate. So you can be saving into pension all your life, and if you passed away, that doesn't get taxed 40% inheritance tax like the rest of your estate does. It gets passed down outside of your estate to your beneficiaries. Phenomenal.
I think we're going to have to do an episode on inheritance tax and trying to avoid the 40%.
Yeah, look, it's such a huge part of what I do. Succession planning, estate planning. There's 7 or 8 different strategies, And in terms of priority or orders that you look at them will depend on client circumstances, but also on legislation changes. You know, there's been some recent shake-ups to inheritance tax, which has really changed some of the advice that we would have been given over the last 5 to 10 years. So yeah, that's when you need to do a deep dive into, because it's an ever-changing landscape, but it's very interesting and is one of probably the most tangibly beneficial things that I do as a financial planner. Okay. Because if I can explain to a client that in doing this piece of work, if you survive for 2 years or whatever it might be, then your family will have saved hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yes.
It's very compelling.
Yeah.
And the value is very easy to understand.
I'm not too sure how true it is. I mean, because I've never been in that situation, but is it over 400,000 where you've got to pay the 40% inheritance tax or something like that? Or is it over a certain amount?
So quickly, you've got the nil rate band, which every individual has, which is £325,000. Okay. So if you have an estate over £325,000, you may be taxed on the excess at 40%. Okay. If you own a property and you pass it down to direct descendants, that's children, grandchildren, then you could have another £175,000, which is the residential nil rate band, which is £500,000. If you're a married couple and the first one predeceases the other and passes everything to the surviving spouse, passing assets between spouses on death is inheritance tax exempt. Okay. And you've not used a penny of your nil rate band. Okay. So on second death, you could potentially have £1 million worth of nil rate band. Yeah. So actually, and this is something that a lot of people don't seem to understand. A lot of people seem to think that inheritance tax will affect them. But if you're a married couple and you have a property that you're going to pass down to your children, which is a fair amount of people, then you are unlikely to have to pay an inheritance tax unless your total estate is worth over £1 million. Okay. So the threshold is actually probably higher than people think. And then above that, yes, you've got a 40% tax rate on everything else.
So what I'm not too sure is true or not is the 40% part. I've heard that a lot of people have to pay the 40% tax before they actually inherit the properties or so on. Is that true? So if somebody dies and an estate goes into probate, during that process, the inheritance tax needs to be paid. Okay. So, yes. And you haven't even sold the property as yet. So those funds, just an average person living check to check, you wouldn't even have the money to pay that inheritance tax.
Well, it's not taxed on the beneficiary, it's taxed on the estate. Okay. So you have time to liquidate assets if you need to. Okay, so if you have a property and that's the only way that you're going to be able to pay the inheritance tax, so maybe the estate is just a large property and then a little bit of cash and pensions above that, for example, then there might be a tax bill which is over and above what the liquid assets can afford, in which case you'd have to sell the property, and HMRC will give you time to do that. Okay. And that's a tax on the estate, not the beneficiary.
Got you.
There can potentially be cases where there is tax on the beneficiaries, and that's if the person who's died has made gifts to them over and above the annual exemptions, in which case, if they die within 7 years of making that gift, there's a potential for the value of that gift, or a chunk of it, to be clawed back into the estate and tested for inheritance tax. And if there's an inheritance tax liability there, that tax is on the beneficiary. So if you're given a large gift by an elderly family relative, just be wary that over the next 7 years, HMRC may come knocking and want some of that back.
They've got to survive the 7 years to keep it tax exempt.
Yes. The 40% rate starts to taper down. So if you make a gift, so if I made a gift to you of £100,000, you obviously have all of that. There's no tax in me giving you that gift. Yeah. Unless Jeremy Corbyn gets into government, and then he might like to do something about that. But yeah, if I survive 7 years, that's yours. No tax ever needs to be paid. If I die within the first 2 years, then potentially 40% of that would be clawed back from HMRC from you. Crazy. But from years 2 to 7, the 40% rate starts to taper away. So it goes in year 3, if I died, it would be a 32% tax rate, and then a 24%, and then 16, and then 8, and then 0. So it tapers away over those 7 years.
That just sounds so greedy.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't disagree.
It was a gift in the first place. It sounds so greedy. It's like, well, you've got a gift. I want some.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
so
yeah, you're not wrong.
Like, it's just, how do you justify that? You know, like what is the real reason behind that?
It's also not like, you know, it's inheritance tax. Obviously, we grew up in this country. We all know about it. It's not every country has inheritance tax. It's something that we choose to implement in this country.
Yeah.
But many countries just don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, of all the money the government gives out in this country, because I always wonder where they get it all from, and there's just so many different incomes they have. That's one of their incomes, right?
Yeah.
Crazy, you know.
Yeah, I think there's I can't remember what the number is now, but there's a lot of taxes out there. Yeah.
Okay. So how, as a self-employed person or business owner, like just 1 or 2 tips on trying to pay less tax as a self-employed person or business, what would you do? You know, what steps would you take?
Probably, you know, it's a question for an accountant who can run through all the different tax deductible expenses that you can make as a business. But as a financial planner, I have some clients who are business owners, and for me, it's always about getting them to max out their pension contributions.
Okay.
Because a pension contribution is an allowable expense from corporation tax.
What's the maximum they can put into a pension?
Well, you can put £60,000 a year into a pension.
Okay.
So there's an annual allowance, which is quite generous. There's potential to put more in if you've got unused allowances from the previous 3 tax years as well.
Okay.
So, you know, I've had some clients and we've put in, you know, over £100,000 into a pension in one go. In fact, I'm doing that right now for a client who owns a limited company. So similar scenarios I'm about to explain. If you've got cash in the business, and you've not been able to spend it efficiently, you know, you haven't been able to spend it on deductible expenses that don't incur corporation tax, and you've just got, I don't know, you've had a good year, you're profitable, you've got £50,000 in the business in cash. You want to make sure you've got a working float, you know, just make sure that, you know, suppliers or costs or whatever are covered for a few months in case there's no income, just to manage cash flow. But everything above that, you know, you want to try and do something with. So in that example, let's say that float was £10,000. You got potentially £40,000 there that would be incurring at the very least 19% corporation tax. So that's not it's a good few £1,000s.
Yeah.
If you were going to pay yourself that money, then if you're paying it as a salary, then you've got income tax, national insurance to worry about.
Yes.
If you're paying it as a dividend, then you've got dividend tax and corporation tax, because a dividend is not an allowable expense.
Yeah.
So if you are a high rate taxpayer, you've paid yourself as a salary, most accounts will set up a self-employed person's salary at the personal allowance, pay themselves £12,570 a year as salary at 0%, and then dividends up to the high rate tax threshold, because the dividend rate's 8.75%. So much lower than a income tax rate of 20%, but you do pay the corporation tax at 19%. So either way, there's a couple of taxes.
Yeah.
The only way to avoid all of these taxes is to put it into your pension. It's an allowable expense. So instead of that £40,000 being paid to you, and you've paid potentially over 33% in dividend tax and 19% corporation tax, before you know it, you've got less than half of the money that you've taken out, and HMRC's taken the rest.
Yeah.
Use your pension. You can put that £40,000 directly into your pension, no corporation tax, no income tax, and it's in a tax-free growth environment, and it's yours for the future.
And then obviously you just pay yourself the 12,575.
Yeah, which you'd have been paying as you go anyway. You know, that's that. When you're self-employed, you draw what you need as you go month to month.
Yeah,
it's the money above and beyond that if you've got more left over. You know, I would always encourage my clients to pay regularly into their pension to make sure that they're doing it and not just looking at doing it once a year. But yeah, excess cash in a business on profits, pensions are a brilliant way to get money out of your business.
Sound advice. Amazing. I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy that one.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. So do you think the UK is a good place to live as a high income earner?
That's a good question. I love the UK. I think the UK is a great place to live generally.
Yeah.
I do. So it depends on what you want from life. If you're all about maximizing tax efficiencies and income, you can do better in the Middle East or Portugal or America. But, you know, there's so many factors to where you live and where you want to live. It might be family, it might be friends, might be lifestyle. So yeah, it's a really difficult one to answer, but yeah, just based on taxes and income potential, earning potential, then there's no secret. There's lots of people that are leaving the UK at the moment and moving to Dubai and places like that.
And that's still having their business in the UK, making UK money. It still works, yeah?
I don't really know how that works,
Okay.
if I'm honest. Now, all of these different territories have got different tax agreements with the UK, and you need to speak to an international tax advisor to understand exactly what that might mean for you, depending on where you're going to be living, because tax earned in different countries could potentially be not taxed from your country of residence,
Yeah.
but it potentially could, depending on where you are.
Okay.
So, if you're thinking of moving anywhere, just make sure you do your research on that one and go find a tax advisor who specializes in that territory.
Okay. So yeah, if you're a tax advisor as well, I'd love to have you on the show. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no shortage of people thinking about it, moving abroad.
I mean, a lot of people are moving to Dubai lately as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
loads.
Lifestyle's good over there as well.
Yeah, I've got some friends who are doing it or have done it.
Is that something you could
they
do
love it.
for your business as well? I mean, is your business quite remote, would you say?
I don't see myself ever doing that.
Okay.
I think lifestyle wise, me and my partner we'd be up for it.
Yeah.
She only said to me the other day, she said, if you said to me that you wanted to do that, then I would come with you. But I would find it very hard to run my business from over there unless I was sort of had someone that was here still managing the business and I was starting again over there. I could, talk to somebody who was managing my business here. Yeah. Of course you could. And it could be possible.
It sounds like a good opportunity for you.
You could make it work. I just don't know if I'd want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I like being here. I feel a bit of loyalty to my clients who are here, and I just don't like the idea of up and moving to another country. And I haven't figured out a way where that would not affect the service I give to my clients.
Okay.
If I could figure that out, then potentially it would be something that we might do in the future. But I've got no plans to do it at the moment.
Okay, because I think that's one of the biggest life decisions, choosing where you live, and I don't think most people even make that decision.
No, and
they're just here and they just stay here.
100%. And don't get me wrong, I have thought many times. I don't like having regrets, but maybe when I was younger in the early 20s, would have been a nice thing to do, to go and try living abroad somewhere for a bit. Yeah,
some people don't even leave the city that they grew up in, or the town or the village.
I know people. So my town is just on the edge of the Welsh valleys in Neath. Right. I know people that are still on the same street that they grew up in, and nothing against that. It's what they want to do. But there's a whole world, exactly. Yeah.
It's like we're human beings, we're able to move around and just enjoy the land all over the world.
We've never lived in a time when it's been easier to travel and live and experience different countries. It seems such a shame. It's such a small chance that we were born in this period of time, and to just stay in the same place your whole life seems like such a waste.
Yeah, exactly. Too people are too comfortable, too familiar.
Yeah.
Again, each to their own.
Of course, yeah.
Still, just I don't know. I think it's such so much you could learn from living somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Quality of life as well, you know, like when I travel to certain places, the happiness they have, even not even having as much as we do, I envy it. I want to be part of it, you know.
Yeah,
race over here.
100%. And you know, it probably is something that we could tap into from a psychology perspective when we're talking about instant gratification and spending money on things you don't need. You know, spending a bit of time over there might help change your views on what you really need.
Yeah. When I take holidays, I normally take like 3-week holidays.
Yeah.
Which is just enough for me to start to understand how they live.
Yeah.
You know, because I normally rent a car as well, and I just travel out to the parts where it's not so touristy.
Sure.
Spend time with people that don't even speak English. I'm sitting there using Google Translator app trying to back, you know, but it just teaches me so much about life. And I come back thinking, oh man, the UK isn't it.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. I do always get that sadness when I come back and you step off the plane and it's grey and it's miserable and everyone looks, you know, unhappy and
like, when we all get
annoyed.
Money as well. You can stay home and get money from the government and still buy expensive things. And there's people over there that can't get anything. They're struggling for food every day.
And they're loving life.
But exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a lot to do with your social circles and, you know, just community.
Yeah, and definitely, you know, hard proof that material things don't buy happiness.
Exactly. Even though a lot of them do want it over there, you come over all the stuff and they're like, what? Can I have it?
Yeah.
But, you know, it still doesn't matter to them as much. But they are starting to get very attached to social media. Yeah. Which is, it's unfortunate for them because soon their values will change.
Yeah, I know. We need to warn them.
Yeah. But, you know, it's like their connection to the outside world, which most people didn't have before. Which
in many ways is amazing, you know, having that connectivity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the downsides are becoming more and more glaringly obvious as, you know, these younger generations are coming through and really struggling.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So do you believe that consumer debt is always bad, or are there times when using credit cards or loans to fund experiences is a valid life choice?
No, it's not always bad.
Okay.
You know, credit cards, when managed properly, can be a tool. You know, they help build a good credit score, which allows you then to borrow as cheaply as you possibly can. That might be to borrow for large life purchases or, you know, mortgage for your house. And I think, like I said earlier, certain credit cards can offer additional benefits when you spend with them. So if you can spend what you were going to spend anyway, but through a credit card that then also gives you bonus points that roll up that you could transfer into, you know, points that can buy flights or hotels or holidays or experiences, then, you know, that's a great thing. It's a really good thing. The danger with credit cards is the freeness in which you sort of given this money, particularly when you're younger.
Yeah.
And you see a credit limit of £1,500. You think, oh, I've got £1,500. You haven't, you know, that's just a limit that they're giving you on credit, which they want back from you.
When I was a kid, I thought my overdraft was my money as well.
When I went to university, it was exactly the same. I think my overdraft was, because they gave you a generous one as a student in your student account.
Okay.
I was gone within the first 2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
That's £100 overdraft. Got his first £100 overdraft. He went and bought some Adidas trainers. I'm like, mate, you just opened the account. Just spend the money you ain't got already. And I remember the overdraft fees was horrible back then. I'm sure it was like £7.50.
Well, this was before overdraft. They introduced more legislation on overdraft fees, didn't they? Because they used to be steep, really steep.
By then, I already stopped using overdraft. I learnt my lesson, you know. I was like, I'm paying out too much money for the item that I bought that wasn't even that much in the first place. Yeah,
you do end up spending way over the headline price. And it's the same with credit cards. And with credit cards, those high fees and high interest rates are still there. You know, it's less so with overdrafts now, but typical APR might be 30%.
Yeah.
You know, if you've not cleared off your debt on a credit card, then all of a sudden you could be in one of those debt cycles where you're just paying off the debt and you're not getting the the actual balance down. So it's critical they're managed well, because credit cards managed well can be a really good asset. When they're managed poorly, it can give you a bad credit score, and it can really, really detrimentally affect your ability to borrow money. So credit cards are as good as the individual that uses them.
And minimum payments are designed to keep you literally paying for the rest of your life, because minimum payment will never get you out of that debt.
No, minimum payment is what, 1% of the balance?
I'm not even sure.
I think it's 1%, and it doesn't cover off the interest you're paying.
Exactly.
So you end up paying the interest plus the 1%, and every month you're paying more and more and more, and your balance is not going down.
Do you have an example of when consumer debt is a good idea, or what it could be used for as a?
Yes, I think if you have an existing healthy financial position, and you want to buy a sofa for the house, for example, and the company is offering a 0% interest on a 2-year purchase.
Why not?
Why not? Spread the cost out, make it more affordable for you. You don't have to take the initial hit. Likewise, you could get a credit card which has a 0% interest on purchases. You could, and if that is for a year or 2 years, it's effectively the same thing. Difference being is you now have this credit card which can turn into something ugly if you don't manage it properly. So, credit cards should come with many more warnings around how they should be managed, because it's very easy to get into a doom cycle with them.
Well, that doesn't help their business model, right? So
it's the thing. There is a conflict there, and it's the reason they keep offering you higher and higher credit limits. Because interest on higher amounts is more money for them and a higher bottom line. So, be vigilant. Use them as tools. Don't use them as last resorts. Don't take credit cards out if you're already struggling with debt. Fix the root problem.
Credit purchases towards your business can help as well. So my side hustle, I'm an Uber driver. And a lot of Uber drivers, once they qualify to become an Uber driver, it probably takes around maybe 700 quid to get a taxi license and then become an Uber driver. But then they don't have their own vehicle, because you've got to have a vehicle that's less than 5 years old.
Sure.
Which most people don't have the money to just go and buy. Almost brand new car. But I do think that using credit then to then get that car is, I wouldn't say it's a great idea, but it is a great idea actually, because the amount of money you can bring back in from that, and I'm pretty sure those payments would be tax deductible as well. Through your business, Well,
you're not just looking at a purchase there; it's a return on an investment, isn't it? So I have my car on finance. Which, as a financial thing, is not. If you looked at it, you'd say, well, just if you can buy it outright. Which is normally a better thing to do. But if you want a nicer car, and for me, I would prefer to spread those costs out. You could look at going through a bank and taking a loan out if their rates were better than what the finance company were offering through a lease or a PCP. But ultimately, if you can buy your car outright, then that's the best thing you can do. But if you're doing it for a business perspective and you can run it through your business, then obviously, some of those costs are tax deductible. You still got benefits in kind, which are far more generous if it's an electric car. If you can run an electric car through a limited company and it's for the purposes for the business, then that could be something that's really efficient.
My sister, she did want to buy a used car. It was it was last year. She wanted to buy a 2021, 22 plate Mini. And she was showing me all these prices. She was like, well, I've got $7,000 that I'll put forward to it, but these cars are costing near enough 20 grand. And it was I looked at the interest rates on them, and it was another 7 to 8 grand on top. I'm like, the amount of money you're going to pay back after the 5 years, and the payments are not really high enough to pay it all back. They want you to pay a lump sum.
Okay.
at the end of your agreement, which is like £9,000 or something like that. And I just told her, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, in this instance, I actually talked her out of it, and I helped her look for. I told her that if you want something like brand new and you want it for a good price,
Yep.
then you could look at cars that are, I wouldn't say in not so great shape. So like a Cat S or a Cat N car, right?
Yep.
So cars that have been written off due to minor damage.
Yeah.
So I got her looking at those, and I said, look, you can have a look at those. You could pay a subscription to a website, and you can check the actual damage reports for each of these vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make an educated decision, go look at the cars, speak to the people, see how honest they are
Yeah.
about the car. And that's how you know you're probably going to get a decent enough deal.
Yeah.
We ended up getting a 2021 plate Mini, very low mileage. I think it was like in this 30,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Had all the extras, $7,000.
Really?
$7,000, yeah. And it's a year later now, she's still so over the moon with that bag.
Still driving around in it.
Yeah. For me, I'm thinking there is a little bit of a risk to it,
Yeah.
but not with no risk, there's no reward.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah,
And you got to do your research on those sorts of things, haven't you?
great deal, yeah. And, she's not really a person who's bought many cars and so on.
Yeah.
And I've probably bought 4 or 5 cars in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I just thought, let me just help her with this, even though I'm not that experienced.
Yeah.
But I'm quite intelligent. I can make good decisions.
Yeah.
I did my research.
Oh, good for you. I bet she was grateful. I bet she's very grateful.
Very, yeah.
Yeah.
I still need to drive it though, Still need to have my turn. For someone starting from scratch, should they prioritize paying off debt, building savings, or investing?
Typically, it's in that order. So 101 of financial planning. When you do your first exam, you learn about the building blocks of financial planning and the principles. And it's literally that order. So prioritize paying off debt, and then it's saving, and then it's investing. So it's not always that black and white, obviously, and every case might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically that's the priority order.
And with the saving, people should build like a emergency fund type thing.
Yeah, definitely. So savings, you should have an emergency cash fund. As a rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months worth of outgoings is a good level for an emergency fund. Right. In retirement, maybe 12 months. Beyond that, you're just holding too much cash, unless you have a specific purchase in mind. So if there's a purchase that you're looking to make in the short term, it might be a new car, it might be a deposit for a house, for example. You want to keep that in cash, because any sort of investment, you can't guarantee any kind of return over a short period of time, because you can't really predict what's going to happen in the markets over 12 months or 18 months. But if you don't have that and you've got your emergency fund, things beyond that, longer term savings, medium term, long term savings in ISAs and pensions, or if you go beyond that, there's some other slightly more complex type saving vehicles. You've got to diversify into different types of investments, because that's how you can protect your wealth and grow it in real terms. Because in cash over the long term, you're just going to erode the value of your wealth.
So going back to my earlier question with if I had £30,000 saved, putting it towards rent or a mortgage. So unless I wasn't actually saving that £30,000 towards buying a house, my £30,000, I'm not doing much good of it at the moment. I just have £30,000 sitting there. Yeah. If I already have an emergency fund to the side, then that £30,000 is terribly wasted sitting in that account, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that situation, without knowing any of the other details, if that £30,000 was free to invest, you had an emergency fund, you had no short-term savings, short-term spending plans, then, and if you didn't feel like you needed that money within the next 20 years plus, that was just long-term savings, you want to put that away for yourself for the future. If you put that £30,000 into a pension, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, then HMRC would gross up that £30,000. So you'd end up getting 20% of £30,000. Well, actually, it would be grossed up. So it'd be effectively times that by 1.25. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that number is. But
times the 30,000 or 1.
Times the 30,000 by 1.25.
So basically, you're getting 25% on.
Yes, you're getting a 25% bonus on top of that.
7,500 on top.
So £37,500. HMRC would just give that to you, and that gets added into your pension as well.
Instantly or more?
Instantly.
Okay.
Well, depending on the platform, it might take, some of them pay instantly, some of them pay in 30 days, some of them pay a little bit longer. But yeah, pretty much
good enough.
Straight away.
Yeah.
There is no other investment that you can access as a retail investor that's going to give you an immediate 25% increase on your investment. And then it's in a pension, which grows tax-free, no dividend tax, no interest tax. You choose your investment portfolio, or you work with a planner that can build you a tailored portfolio that's going to grow for you over the long term. It's tough to beat, that is.
Definitely. So if someone didn't want to put something locked away like that, because I mean, if I was thinking I might buy a house of it at some point, I wouldn't have that opportunity anymore, putting it in a pension. Yeah. So would you advise something like more like an ISA maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So really good tax saving vehicles, ISAs. You know, you might do a combination of a lifetime ISA and a stocks and shares ISA.
Yeah.
So in any given tax year, you've got a £20,000 allowance, but that's across your entire ISA allowance.
Yeah.
So if you were going to put 4,000 into a lifetime ISA, which is your maximum for a lifetime ISA, you could put 16,000 into a stocks and shares ISA, for example. And then you've got another £10,000 that you could put into an investment account, which could mirror the underlying investments that you've got in your two ISAs. And then you could move it across into your ISA in the new tax year once your allowance resets.
So your total ISA allowance is 20,000?
Yeah, each year. Yeah.
No matter how many ISAs you have?
No matter how many ISAs you have, yeah. So if you've got 10, you could do 2 into each.
Okay.
If you've got 2, you could do 10 into each. There's different types of ISAs that have different allowances. So like, for example, the lifetime ISA has only got 4,000. So you just got to take into account all those things. But overall, it's a £20,000 allowance.
Okay.
Worst known, because I get asked this quite a lot, is sometimes people have got some cash ISAs or some other ISAs maybe that they want to consolidate together.
Yeah.
And they don't know if transferring an ISA pot into a new ISA accounts towards that allowance. It doesn't. So if transferring an ISA doesn't use up any of your allowance.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're funding a new ISA from another ISA, that is not using up any of your £20,000 allowance.
And is that just because banks are happy to receive that money anyway, right?
I guess so, yeah, I guess. And it's also, you know, that money you've already put into an ISA once.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to get the benefits.
Okay. Yeah.
That money has not, you know, you haven't taken it out, you haven't. One thing I guess to be aware of with ISAs is not all providers have got what are called flexible ISAs.
Right.
It's something to do your research on. So when you're looking at an ISA provider, make sure that they are flexible ISAs. What I mean by that is if you put money into an ISA, however much you put in, let's say £10,000, but you wanted to take that money back out, or if you wanted to take some of it out, let's say £5,000. So you put in 10, you take out 5. A flexible ISA will mean that after you've taken out 5, you can still put back in 15 in that tax year if you had the ability to.
Okay.
But a non-flexible ISA, you've put 10 in, you take 5 out. The fact that you've taken 5 out doesn't matter in terms of your allowance. You can still only put 10 back in. Because you put 10 in, taking money out doesn't affect the allowance. So flexible ISAs are better in that sense because it means that you have the ability to take money out without it affecting your allowance for the year.
But less interest more than likely, right?
No, not at all. No. It's just down to the provider because some of them were set up longer ago.
Okay.
You know, the ability of a flexible ISA is a slightly newer piece of legislation.
Okay.
And some providers have developed their products and others haven't. Because a stocks and shares ISA, you determine what the underlying investment is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't impact the returns that you could get.
Okay. So just a little bit more old school.
Yeah. Typically some of the high street banks have still got those non-flexible features.
Got you. So what's the most common myth about investing that puts people off getting started?
They don't understand it, typically. I had a conversation with a friend of mine's partner recently, and it was along those lines. And she just said, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. Where do I even begin? And I think, it's worth putting out there that technology has moved on so much in the last 10 years that everybody's access to really sophisticated investment portfolios is a lot closer and easier than maybe you think. It's true. In the past, if you wanted to invest, you had to read up on the Financial Times and you had to buy stock from the companies directly. And that was a bit more difficult. And you had to manage your portfolio yourself, or you had to use a stockbroker. And these things can be a bit off-putting to most people.
Yeah.
But with the development in investment platforms and technologies and access to really good risk-managed model portfolios on all of the major investment platforms now, you don't have to manage the money yourself. You can just use a fund manager to do it. Make sure you know what their costs are, because some charge more than others to manage that particular portfolio. So, make sure you understand what your net returns are and your gross returns and your charges. And as long as you're happy with that and you feel like you're getting value, you don't actually need to do any of the management yourself. You can do as much research as you want in terms of what's in that portfolio. You can look at the fact sheets, you can look at the underlying holdings, the asset allocation, the sector allocation, the territory allocation, or you can do none of it at all and simply just allow the investment manager to do the work for you. The difficulty there is, which investment manager to choose, which fund manager to choose, and that's one that you just have to spend a little bit of time doing some research on. Have a look at the fact sheets, have a look at the costs, have a look at the past performance. Amount of money invested in those funds is often a good indicator. Large amounts shows good economy of scale. I think that the main barrier for most people is just that they feel like they don't understand it, or it's not for them. But actually, the likelihood is that they have a pension with their employer where they are invested already. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
And just paying a little bit of attention to it can hopefully give them a bit more confidence that they can do it themselves.
Okay. So what's your view on these investment platforms that allow people to use general investment accounts where they particularly don't really have much control over what they're putting their money into, apart from probably delegating out the risk, as in how much percentage they'll put into bonds and how much percentage they'll put into property or REITs, how much percentage they'll put into stocks and things like that?
That's a good question. I'm getting into the weeds now, and I guess the answer there is that a lot of portfolio managers, investment managers, fund managers, whatever you want to call them, multi-asset portfolios, where you're talking about the ones that have a certain percentage of commercial property, commodity, bonds, equities, they will have a variety of different models with tweaked asset allocations dependent on risk.
Yeah.
So for any individual investor, if they wanted to invest with that particular investment manager because they were confident with them, they'd done their research and they wanted one of their portfolios, there's normally 5, 7, maybe up to 10 different portfolios where at the very bottom, the 1 out of 10 might be a minimal amount in the stock market, mostly in sort of fixed interest and cash and safer asset classes, you'd call them.
Yeah.
But with a lower potential return over the long term.
Yeah.
And then as you go up that scale, those asset allocations just tweak a little bit and your exposure to the stock market gets dialed up and up and up and up. And then when you get to the top end, you're pretty much 100% equities in that portfolio. So most of these investment managers will have these options of various funds at various different risk levels.
Yeah.
And they are mandated to stay within those parameters because that's what's suitable for their investors within that portfolio.
Yeah.
And there is very, very heavy regulation and very heavy consequences for fund managers that drift away from those parameters. We saw it quite recently and quite publicly with Neil Woodford and his fund when he left Invesco and he set up his own investment fund where he had an income fund that lots of clients were invested in, that Hargreaves Lansdown were pushing out as one of their star funds. And it performed really poorly, and he ended up chasing returns and taking on more risk than he was mandated to, with a number of unlisted holdings in there. When I say unlisted, not listed on the major stock exchanges, so typically would have been classed as higher risk. And eventually it got suspended because clients lost trust and faith in it, pulled the money out. They had to freeze the fund because too many people were taking their money out, kind of like a run on the bank in the old days sort of thing. So yeah, these things are heavily regulated, and that was very, very public, and a good example that you need to do your research on these investment managers, because unless the internal checks and procedures and compliance and everything is there and you're happy with it, then there's always a risk. There is now, post the 2008-2009 recession, further protections for retail customers. So if you are investing in any of these platforms or providers who are regulated by the FCA, or going to an advisor who's regulated by the FCA, then all of us, every single financial services company, pays into the FSCS pot, which is the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which protects you for up to £85,000 or 100% of your first £85,000 in any given, with any given provider. And that could be across multiple providers. So, you know, I've got clients who've got a lot of cash, for example. If they've got more than £85,000, we spread that over different bank accounts so that each banking institution, they have that protection.
Up to £85,000?
Up to £85,000 each, yeah.
Okay.
So there are lots of protections in place now that followed the disaster we saw at the end of the noughties. So those sorts of risks of defaulting providers and platforms has been slightly mitigated by the fact that we have this overlapping FSCS protection now for clients. Doesn't mean to say that means you can just go away and invest in what you want and you'll get your money back, because underlying performance of those holdings you're not protected against. You know, if you invest in something that just tanks and is worth zero, you're not protected for that. It's if the actual provider that you've given your money to defaults.
So it's similar to, well, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy called Nick Leeson who I made a movie about him, actually. They called it Rogue Trader. He opened up a futures option many years ago. Right. And it was, I believe it just continued to tank. And he literally just kept it a secret, didn't tell anybody about it. One day it actually broke even, but I can't remember why, but he decided to keep it open. And then it ended up losing almost £1 billion or something, and it ended up closing one of the UK banks, Barings.
Oh yeah,
Bank, yeah. Actually, well, not for myself, but another person who podcasts in the studio. Yeah, interviewed him.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, he came in to speak about it. The other person, Sean Atwood interviewed him. Yeah. And it was quite an interesting story.
I'll have to give that a listen.
Serving some time in, I believe it was a German prison and a Singapore prison, because I believe he was over in Singapore doing these trades for his company. I can't remember which it was. But back then, I guess there wasn't too many checks into certain people's trades, and where the money was and what was happening. Yeah. So people that, obviously, people would have had their money invested in these companies, so those people would have been, what's the word? Sorry. I can't think of it right now, but they're up to £85,000 they would have been protected against. Right. So they would have got their money back, right? Up to £85 or
so long as I mean, Barings would have been a regulated firm. So if the money was with Barings and then through Barings they lost that money, and Barings went into administration, they would get that money back.
Okay, so they did go into administration. I heard it was the Queen's Bank as well. There was rumours
Oh, really?
The Queen used to bank there as well. So
Did she?
yeah, it's a crazy story.
Can't imagine
I'm trying to
her.
remember it.
Can't imagine her waltzing into the local high street bank,
Oh
and
yeah, no.
depositing her checks.
Bearings does sound like
It sounds.
yeah, you know,
it
doesn't sound like the
elite,
high
doesn't
street
it?
bank.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds like it has a certain type of customer, you know. People
yeah.
have a lot of money, royalty, you know,
Sure.
come
Yeah.
from a certain background. Cool. So, how important is having a specific goal for your savings rather than just saving for the future?
That's a great question. It's really important. And without sounding too salesy, there's different levels of how to kind of sell to someone. And a good salesman will be able to sell a product and talk to you about the features and whatnot. A great one will be able to sell you the benefits. You know, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
How does it make your life better? But the best ones will make you really feel something, because if you feel something, there's no better motivator to do something or make a change or make a purchase if you really do feel something. And I think this is kind of like that. You know, if you can set yourself a goal that is really personal to you, that really makes you feel something. So if you think, oh God, how would I feel if that was me, and if I had that, that might be something as simple as just having, you know, a house in the countryside with a bit of land that your dogs could run around in. I say that because that's kind of mine, really. I don't have massive ones, but that makes me feel really good inside, really warm, really peaceful. And it's quite a motivator. Yeah, for me, that works a lot better than something material like a watch or a car. But then again, somebody might get a really, you know, highly sensitive feeling towards something like that, in which case, great. If that's your motivation, brilliant. Have those goals, think about them carefully, make you feel something, and use that as fuel to stick to your plan. And then anytime that you feel like, you know, you're straying from the plan or whatever, keep thinking back to why you're doing it. Makes you feel something, gets you back into the swing of things.
Yeah, I usually think when you write those things down as well, it helps solidify it, like to just do an action rather than just think it in your brain. Because I think, oh, I need to save £10,000 for this.
Yeah.
But if I don't write it down or do anything that actively puts me in that sort of mind frame, then I just kind of forget about it. Or, you know, I find myself doing things like if I'm doing Uber and I say, all I got to do is make an extra £100 tonight, and that helps me towards my goal.
Sure.
But if I don't have it written down or anything like that, or I don't actually physically work towards my goal somehow, and I just have it as an idea in my head, then I will just think,
I agree.
Tomorrow.
I agree. I think that's great. I think there's two parts to it, isn't there? There's the physical act of writing it down, and there's also just you have this thing that's there now, and you're accountable to it, because you've brought it to life.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's always a good idea. Write things down.
100%.
If they're long-term goals, like thinking about things like 20, 30 years down the road.
You need something to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, maybe bury a time capsule or something.
Yeah, you know, something's got to play in your mind that if you don't do it, there's some sort of guilt to it. Yeah. Because when you just think about doing this thing and there's nothing to it, you don't write it down. Yeah. You don't have the discussion with somebody and turn it into something more serious. Yeah. Then there's no guilt. You could just easily get on with your life because no one knows about it. Yeah. You know, so you're not doing anyone a disservice, you think. Yeah. But, you know, when you write it down, something about it just makes you feel like you're doing a disservice to yourself. Yeah, and if that doesn't work for you, then, you know, speak to a really close, trusted friend or family member and tell them have a talk about what you guys want from life, and have it out with someone that you really trust, and then you guys can share how you're getting along. Or speak to a financial planner. Speak to a financial planner. What a segue, yeah. Speak to a financial planner. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the ideal, because I mean, I'm paid to keep you to that plan. Yeah. And you know, we're all incentivized to achieve those goals together. So that is what I dedicate most of my time to doing.
So
that's ultimate accountability for someone like myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. In fact, was I talking to you about this earlier? It feels like we've been talking for ages. But there was a client who, no, actually, I was talking to somebody else on the phone this morning about a client, and I had to change tact with them a little bit this year because they're quite indecisive, and they're lovely people. I've known them for a very, very long time, and I've seen them through a generation that's now passed away, and now dealing with them and their children, and just they're quite passive and indecisive. And in this year, I just said, look, I'm just going to switch it up a little bit this year, and I'm going to be a bit more direct with you, because there are things that we need to be doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing my job if I'm not making these things happen for you. Yeah. So when I say I need something from you, and if I don't get it, I will be a bit annoying and I will be badgering you until we get it done. And so in the nicest way possible, you might hear a bit more from me this year. And they were like, great, it's exactly what we need. We need to get, we need that kick up the backside to get us doing this stuff. And so you've got to understand your clients as well. And that's what I try to do, is understand exactly what they need and implement.
And that's why it's important to have a financial planner, because again, writing it down is good for accountability for yourself. But when you have someone else who can actually help motivate you, can actually help, drive you towards your goal quicker than you can on your own. Mm-hmm. It's like having someone on your team. You know? Like, in a way, not to say like you're a cheerleader, but it's like someone who's going to cheer you on and also be your manager.
Yeah.
At the same time, your team manager.
Yeah.
So they're giving you all the information you need. So all you've got to do now is just put the money where your mouth is, work every day like you say you was going to in the first place. Yeah. And you can achieve your goals quicker than you can on your own. Yeah,
or you definitely can. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of data out there that support individuals having... the only tangible way to understand if you've had value from an advisor is to see what returns you've had, or what maybe you saved over the time through taxes. It comes down to money at the end of the day. But all the data says, people are better off through using financial planners. Yeah. And the reason for that isn't necessarily because we have access to better investment solutions or we pick better funds. It's because we make better decisions and we keep you on a plan. Yeah. It's easy to make a plan. It's harder to implement it year on year, tracking it, tweaking it if you need to, and seeing that through right to the time when you need it. And plans and objectives change through different stages of life. Like, we go through blocks with people. At the start, it's about maximizing income potential, or maybe short-term savings for a house or children or education and things like that. You get beyond that, and then it's about, right, now we're full on fifth gear into saving for retirement. So it's about maxing out pension contributions. And then you get to retirement, and then it becomes about the most efficient way of decumulating from your funds that you've accumulated and the most tax efficient income strategies. And then beyond that, it becomes about succession planning. So there are different stages of life that require different focuses of financial planning. And I love the fact I can walk my clients through all of these stages in life. And I like the fact I'm a younger advisor, and I think a lot of clients like that, because they look at me and they go, yeah, you'll still be around when I'm on my deathbed, which is great. And then you can look after my kids. So it's a privilege, to be honest, to be able to do it. It's a big responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I'm fortunate in that I love what I do. And I don't take it for granted.
I hope your clients give you your flowers when they're deserved,
Yeah, they do sometimes.
Good.
No, they do. Yeah, I love all my clients. They're I'm in a kind of privileged position now where I don't necessarily need to work with anybody that I just don't get on with. Because some people are really difficult, and some people are just really hard work. And I will engage with everybody and I'll give everyone my time. But, there has come a couple of occasions where I've just said, look, I don't think we should work together anymore. So that is, it's nice to be able to do that and work with people that only, I've got no issue with being. I should be held accountable for what I do, because what I do is a high responsibility job.
Yeah.
And that's healthy and that's challenging and that's good. But yeah, some people, it's nice just to say, do you know what? I think you need to find another advisor.
So I think that's all we got time for today.
Great.
But
thank you.
We have so much to cover. So we will be talking again very soon.
We'll be back.
Where can people find you? Do you have any socials or anything where people could connect with you, or do you have any information you want to share?
Yeah, so I've got my socials. So Tim Brienza, that's my handle on. I think it's Tim_Brienza on Instagram and on TikTok. Tim Brienza on LinkedIn. Yeah. So I share a lot of like video content on Instagram and LinkedIn, and then articles and blogs and things. Sorry, videos and content like that on Instagram and TikTok, and then LinkedIn is where I have my articles and blogs and that sort of stuff. I mean, my financial planning role, that's I work with Montpellier Asset Management. So I'm self-employed, but I work with a team there who are fantastic, and yeah, as a team, we provide a wonderful service to all of our clients. So if anybody that actually wants to become a client, feel free to go through them or directly through myself. And yeah, but for anybody who just finds this useful, then go to Instagram, go to TikTok, go to LinkedIn, go to your channel.
Yeah. And for the schools out there as well, or communities that think, having someone like Tim in for a talk with residents, children, adults, people that need financial literacy, especially the places that are poorly served.
Yeah.
Please reach out.
Reach out directly. Yeah, that'd be great.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, give value to your friends, your family. Because, what we're doing here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for coming in.
No problem.